Introduction. The day you decide to see clearly. You don't usually remember the exact moment you decided to see clearly. It sneaks up on you, not with thunder, but with the quiet clink of a detail that doesn't fit. For me, it was a Tuesday, the kind of day that looks harmless on the calendar. A friend I trusted had asked for a favor. Nothing dramatic, just a small transfer until Friday. They'd been generous with me before. I told myself it was no big deal. Then Friday arrived, and the story changed. A week later, I noticed two different versions of the same explanation bumping awkwardly into each other. It wasn't the money that stung, it was the hollow, the way a gentle voice can sand down the sharp edges of a lie until you want to lean on it. I kept replaying the conversation, hearing the places where my own mind had raised a hand and politely excused itself from the room. Think about this for a moment. Why do we sometimes ignore what we notice? We're not foolish, we're busy. Not. We're hopeful. We want life to run smoothly, the people we love to be as reliable as our favorite story about them. The brain helps by protecting us from conflict. It stitches little patches of reasonable over the places that feel risky to look at. We call these patches explanations. We call them context. But often they're comfort. Here's the first truth you'll hear from me. Learning to see clearly isn't about becoming suspicious or hard. It's about becoming fair. It's the practice of respecting reality enough to let it have the first word. Before your fear, before your fantasy, before the person sitting across from you tries to rush the ending. And it demands something brave, that you tell the truth to yourself, even when that truth whispers, you didn't want to know. If you're listening to this as an audiobook, you're not looking for party tricks. You don't want a deck of gotcha cues to wield like a magician. You're looking for steadiness, the kind of discernment that works on a date, in a boardroom, with your teenager, and with the mirror. You want to hear the shape of truth under the noise, not only in others but inside your own conversations with yourself. Pause and ask yourself, where in my life do I prefer a comforting story over a clear one? The science won't save you without the human part. Yes, we'll explore patterns, how the body signals when a topic pinches, what timelines reveal when they won't quite line up, how motives leak through language. But people are not spreadsheets. We are nervous systems attached to hopes. We get tired, we try to impress, we forget. Anxiety is not proof of lying. Charm is not proof of honesty. The method here is gentle and rigorous. We'll learn to assemble cues like puzzle pieces and then test the picture, not force it. Let me offer a way to hold this book. Consider it a training ground for your attention. You'll hear stories that mirror familiar pain points. The colleague who always has a reason. The partner who says nothing's wrong while retreating a half step. The family member who promises and postpones until next month becomes next year. With each scene, we'll slow down the frame and look what changed in the body when the topic shifted. Where did the language hedge? How did incentives twist the narrative? And most of all, what did you feel in the first 3 seconds that you later argued away? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Good question. Beneath deception lives survival. Much of what looks like manipulation grows from fear, fear of losing face, fear of losing love, fear of losing control. We'll never excuse harm, and we won't be naive. Still, if you learn to hear the fear, you can respond not with power plays, but with clarity and options. Sometimes truth comes out when pressure comes off. Think about this for a moment. What would your relationships look like if you believed you had enough time to find the truth? Rushing is a liar's favorite tool because urgency narrows attention. In the chapters ahead, you'll practice creating space, asking questions that open rather than corner, using silence so the truth has room to walk in, setting boundaries that make honesty safer than performance. You'll learn to calibrate trust in steps, not leaps, because real trust isn't blind, it's observant. There's a promise in this work. You can become the sort of person to whom truth prefers to speak. Some of that comes from skill. More of it comes from your stance. If you can stay rooted while someone else sways rooted in your values and reality, you give the conversation a center. That steadiness tells the other person, we don't have to pretend. It also tells you you don't have to chase. When you stop grasping for the answer you want, the answer you need gets louder. Here's how to get the most from what's coming. First, listen for baselines. Every person has a normal, their cadence, their detail level, the way they hold eye contact or avoid it without guilt. We'll learn to map that normal so you can see when it shifts. Second, listen for motives. Not the dramatic kind, just the simple calculus of what someone gains if you believe them. Third, listen for the timeline. Does this story survive when placed on a calendar? Finally, listen for your own rationalizations, those little maybe I misheard murmurs. When they show up, get curious, not cruel. Pause and ask yourself, what would I do differently if I trusted my first, quiet signal? Maybe you'd ask one more question. Maybe you'd say, let me think about it. Maybe you'd stop promising before you verified. Small moves, big peace. This isn't a manual on catching people. It's a guide to honoring yourself. Every time you choose clarity, you take your power back from confusion. You begin to spend less time repairing and more time building. You stop managing other people's feelings at the cost of your own. You learn that kindness and honesty are not opposites. Often the kindest thing you can do is ask for the truth and be sturdy enough to hear it. Of course, you'll make mistakes. You'll see deception where there is only insecurity. You'll miss it where it's artful. That's okay. The point isn't perfection, it's progress. Each chapter will add a tool you can practice immediately. You'll hear scripts to use this week, questions to try tonight, and small experiments that yield big clarity. Keep a note on your phone. Jot down what you notice. Treat your attention like a skill you're shaping, because it is. If you're listening on YouTube as part of your growth routine, join the conversation as we go. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Tell us where you're seeing progress. Tell us where you still feel stuck. You'll discover you're not alone, and sometimes that's the truth we need most. Before we begin, allow one more confession. The hardest person to get honest with is the one narrating inside your head. We'll start there, not because you are the problem, but because you are the foundation. If you can see your own defenses without shame, if you can catch yourself polishing a story and gently put the cloth down, you'll never again feel helpless in the face of someone else's performance. You'll know exactly where your feet are and exactly what they can step away from. So here's your invitation. Over the next few hours, treat your attention like a lens. Keep it soft but steady. Notice what tugs, what tightens, what brightens. When you resist a point, don't argue. Ask, what am I protecting? When you love a point, don't idolize. Ask, how will I use this by Friday? Think about this for a moment. What if more of your life could be simple because the truth didn't have to fight for a seat? We're about to begin with the first and most important step. The lies we tell ourselves to stay comfortable and the freedom that arrives when we don't need them anymore. You don't have to become someone else. You only have to decide that your peace is worth the clarity it requires. If you're ready, come with me to the place where honesty starts inside and watch how quickly the world outside begins to make sense. Chapter 1. The first lie we tell ourselves. The night I learned how slippery self-honesty can be, I was standing in my kitchen staring at an empty cereal box that I'd been avoiding for a week. It wasn't about breakfast, it was about a promise I'd made to myself. I was going to slow down, stop saying yes to everything, get some rest. Yet there I was at 11:47 p.m., answering emails I'd labeled urgent because I couldn't bear the thought of disappointing anyone. My phone buzzed with a text from a friend. How are you? I typed back the classic two-word spell that keeps the world from asking more questions. I'm fine. I pressed send and felt my throat tighten. The first lie we tell is usually to the mirror, and the mirror rarely argues. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you said, I'm fine? Not because it was true, but because it was easier than admitting what was messy. Self-deception doesn't arrive with a villain's cape. It shows up as a soft blanket. I can handle it. It's not that bad. They didn't mean it. It will get better after this week. The brain is a brilliant negotiator. Its job is to reduce discomfort and keep you moving. When reality threatens to raise your heart rate, conflict at home, pressure at work, a bank account that doesn't match your lifestyle, the mind makes a deal. Let me smooth this out. Let me shrink the problem so you can sleep. And sometimes that's mercy, but more often it's the first step away from truth. Psychology has a tidy name for this: cognitive dissonance. The tension we feel when our actions and values don't match. The mind hates that tension, so it edits one side of the equation. If changing behavior feels hard or threatening, we change the story. I'm not overworked, I just care more than other people. He didn't forget my birthday, he's under stress, and I'm being needy. The numbers are tight, but this deal could be the big break. The relief is immediate, like loosening a belt after a heavy meal, but the cost is hidden. Each time you bend the story, you train yourself to tolerate less truth, and life becomes harder to navigate because your internal compass is calibrated to comfort, not north. Pause and ask yourself, where in your life do you rely on a comforting explanation to avoid a harder action? Stop on the first image that pops up. Don't tidy it. Don't justify it. Maybe it's the relationship where you always give the benefit of the doubt, even as the doubts pile up. Maybe it's the job title that sounds impressive while your Sundays fill with dread. Maybe it's your health. I'll start after the holidays, which your calendar knows is code for never. Notice the first 3 seconds of knowing before your brain pulls the shades. Here's the tricky part. Self-deception rarely feels like lying. It feels like kindness. We tell ourselves we're sparing our heart, saving the peace, protecting the relationship, honoring loyalty. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often what we're protecting is our identity. If I admit I'm not fine, who am I now? The dependable one, the forgiving one, the leader. If I admit this relationship isn't healthy, what does that say about my choices? If I admit the job no longer fits, do I have to face the unknown? The ego loves a stable story, and it will defend that story with exquisite creativity. Let's bring this down to ground level. Consider Maya, who lends her brother money every few months. He's charming and sincere. He promises to pay her back. He usually does, until he doesn't. When Maya sees his name flash on her phone, her stomach tightens. She tells herself, family helps family, and she's not wrong, but she's ignoring the pattern. The amount increases, the excuses lengthen, and her resentment grows roots. Or think of Marcus, a manager who insists everything is awesome while his team's turnover has doubled. He hates conflict, so he tells a different story. People are moving on to great opportunities. He means it. He also knows he hasn't had one hard conversation about workload and expectations in 6 months. In both cases, the narrative serves a hope and masks a hurt. Here's a practical test you can use starting today. When you hear yourself say, "It's fine," ask, compared to what? Compared to last month? To my values? To what I promised myself? Then ask, for how long? Can it be fine for today while still not fine as a way of life? Naming the horizon matters. Finally ask, at what cost? If the cost is your sleep, your dignity, your savings, or your ability to trust yourself, it's not fine. It's expensive denial. Another useful lens is incentives. What do you gain by believing your own soft story? Maybe you gain belonging, or you avoid a fight, or you keep the status symbol that tells people you're winning. What do you lose by telling the harder truth? Perhaps you risk a breakup, a demotion, a disappointed parent, the quiet of a night alone. When you map the incentives, your self-deception makes perfect sense. You're not crazy. You're protecting something precious. Naming it lets you choose more honestly. Sometimes you'll still choose the delay because timing matters. But now you're delaying with eyes open, not locked in a trance. Think about this for a moment. What would it sound like if you replaced "I'm fine" with a more accurate sentence that doesn't set your life on fire? You don't have to confess everything to everyone. You can practice with yourself first. I'm carrying more than I can sustain. I'm hurt and not ready to talk. I'm scared to change jobs and I'm exploring options. Then try small truths with safe people. I might need a reset on this timeline. I said yes too quickly. I want this to work, and I need something different to trust it. Notice how each sentence doesn't accuse or dramatize. It simply aligns your inner and outer worlds by a few degrees. Those degrees are everything. A word of compassion. Sometimes we overcorrect. We discover a lie we've told ourselves and swing to cynicism, assuming every warm sentiment is manipulation, every delay is avoidance. That's a different kind of self-deception, one that says, if I expect the worst, I'll be safe. What you're really doing is giving fear the microphone. The skill is calibration, not suspicion. Let reality have the first word, then the second and third. Verify gently, ask one more question, set one more boundary, and give people, including yourself, the dignity of being in progress. Pause and ask yourself, if I trusted my ability to handle discomfort, what truth would I admit today? A conversation you've been avoiding will likely appear in your mind's doorway. Don't schedule it yet, just write it down. This is how clarity begins. Not with fireworks, but with a list you decide to stop running from. As we move forward, remember this: truth and love are not rivals. When you choose clarity, you are not betraying the people you care about. You're giving the relationship a chance to be real. You're giving your work a chance to be sustainable. You're giving your body a chance to heal. And you're giving your future self fewer messes to clean up. If you're listening along on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Especially share one small truth you're ready to try on this week. Someone else needs to hear it. Let's leave this chapter with a promise to yourself. You will retire "I'm fine" as your default and replace it with a truer line that fits the moment. You will map your incentives and call them by name. You will treat your attention like a lamp you can aim at the places where your story feels most polished. And then, with gentleness, you will ask for one detail you've been avoiding, because often that's where the mask first slips. Not on someone else's face, but on our own. Next, we'll step into the everyday theater of conversation and watch what happens when a single detail doesn't fit. A word goes missing. A timeline wobbles. A smile lingers half a second too long. The moment the mask slips is quiet, but if you know where to look, it speaks volumes. Chapter 2. The moment the mask slips. It happened over coffee, the kind of conversation that's supposed to be harmless because the mugs are warm and the music is soft. My colleague Jenna was telling me about her weekend. She said she'd been at her mom's birthday dinner on Saturday all night. The words stretched like taffy. I nodded. Then she laughed about how the bakery had closed at 9, so they raced over at 8:55 to pick up the cake. The detail bounced, then landed wrong. If they had the cake by 9, how were they at dinner all night? It was tiny, barely a ripple. But inside, my attention made the quiet click that says, pay attention. This is the moment the mask slips. Not because someone is a villain, but because the story outran the truth by a step. Think about this for a moment. Most masks don't fall with a crash, they tilt. A pronoun changes, a tense shifts, a detail appears that you didn't ask for. Or, just as telling, a detail you would expect never shows up. The slip is a micro-inconsistency too small to prosecute, big enough to mark. If you turn it into a courtroom drama, you'll miss what it's trying to give you. A clue about where to look next. The first principle here is baseline. Every person has a normal way of telling stories. Speed, gestures, how much detail they include when nothing is at stake. Jenna's baseline is breezy, a few punchlines, not many specifics. So when she suddenly offered exact minutes and storefronts, my ears pricked up. Not because specifics equal lies, but because specifics were a departure from her usual rhythm. Pause and ask yourself, what does normal look like for this person? If you can't answer, you're not ready to judge a deviation. You're comparing them to your style, not theirs. There's a psychology to these slips. When we feel even a little threatened, afraid of judgment, loss, or confrontation. The brain starts managing impressions. It edits, it reframes, it fills gaps with plausible enough. Under stress, our working memory shrinks, and keeping a story consistent across time, detail, and motive becomes harder. That's why inconsistencies often appear around the edges. The before and after logistics, the who else was there, the order of events. We don't need to assume malice to notice this. We need to assume humanity and verify reality. A second principle: clusters, not single cues. One wobble can be nerves. Three related wobbles. Timeline, motive, and unnecessary justification deserve a gentle follow-up. Picture a teenager who says, "We studied at Ali's, there were four of us, and my phone died so I couldn't text." That's one wobble, dead phone, paired with a preemptive list, four of us, and a timeline that leaves a blank from 8 to 11 p.m. No alarms yet, just a cluster that invites curiosity. You're not a detective. You're a gardener noticing where the soil has been disturbed. How do you respond in the moment of the slip? First, loosen your face. If your eyebrows announce, "I caught you," you've already lost the chance for openness. Second, ask a neutral, timeline anchoring question that assumes good faith. "Sounds like a packed night. What happened first?" Or, "Walk me through the order. I'm trying to picture it." If the story is true, they'll generally add detail without strain. If it's embellished, you'll often hear overly precise timestamps. "We left at exactly 7:03 when," paired with vague connective tissue, and then stuff happened. The mind pads the weak parts. Real-world example 1. Your boss says the client loved the proposal, and feedback is basically done, but the deadline keeps sliding. You notice the mask slip when basically starts doing a lot of work in every update. Baseline check. Your boss normally names names and actions. Now it's they, soon, almost. Neutral question. Which sections did they sign off on, and who's the approver for the rest? You're not accusing, you're swapping fog for map. Example 2. A partner says they forgot to reply to a text about weekend plans. You notice the slip because they referenced a meme you sent 15 minutes after the unanswered text. Baseline. They usually respond in short bursts even when busy. Cluster. Forgetfulness, plus a polished reason, plus a quick pivot to humor. Neutral move. I want to plan. Can we rewind to when you saw that message? What was happening for you? You're inviting context while holding the thread. Sometimes the slip is not extra detail. It's the disappearance of expected detail. A friend describes a car accident but never mentions calling insurance. A colleague recounts a meeting you both attended and omits the moment the VP asked a hard question. Absence can be an active choice. Think about this for a moment. What detail would a truthful person include without prompting? If that element is missing, you can test gently. How did insurance respond? Or, where did the conversation go after that question? You're opening the door the story skipped. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Sometimes the slip signals not deception, but discomfort. A person who carries shame may over-explain to preempt critique. A trauma survivor might scatter details because sequential memory fragments under stress. A neurodivergent speaker might avoid eye contact or keep their voice flat. Behaviors often misread as evasive. This is why baseline and compassion matter. The goal is not to label, it's to understand enough to ask the right next question. To make this practical, use the 4 corners check as you listen: person, place, time, and purpose. Can the speaker situate the story across all 4 without strain? If 2 or more corners wobble, slow down. Try the mirror. So, you were at the restaurant by 6, picked up the cake just before 9, and then came back for the candles. Did I get that right? Watch what happens. An honest person often relaxes and adds color. A strained story tends to retract or reroute. Well, it was more like, time is fuzzy. Another tool: baseline the context, not just the person. Some environments raise the risk of slips. sales calls, performance reviews, first dates. These are impression-heavy moments. Build the habit of expecting some polishing. Your task isn't to penalize polish, it's to notice when polish covers a dent that matters to you. If you know the pressure is high, you ask kinder, clearer questions and give more room for revision. If you think of a detail later, tell me. I'm not in a hurry to get this right. Safety helps truth remember itself. Pause and ask yourself, in your last conversation that felt off, which corner person, place, time, or purpose wobbled? Did you compare the behavior to their baseline or to your expectations? Did you ask one neutral, mapping question, or did you tighten up and push? If you could rewind, what single sentence would you try? Here's a script to pocket for the next slip. I want to make sure I'm tracking. Can you lay out the order of events so I don't mix anything up? Or, when you said all night, what hours are we talking about? Or, who else was there when that happened? Notice the tone curious, not cornering. Your curiosity keeps the door open. Your calm keeps the floor steady. If you're listening on YouTube, this is a great moment to practice in the comments. Share one neutral question you plan to use this week. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. You'll help someone else find language that invites honesty instead of defensiveness. Before we close, let's return to Jenna and the cake at 9. Did she lie? Maybe. Or maybe all night was shorthand for the whole evening felt like one long blur. And the bakery dash was the only crisp memory. The point isn't to play judge over pastry logistics. It's to notice the click of attention, to honor it, and to follow up with a kindness that seeks clarity. When the mask slips, don't rip it off. Offer the person a room where they don't need it. We're about to step into the engine room of truth. Motivation. Why people say what they say, fear, gain, status, protection, often predicts whether a story will hold. In the next chapter, you'll learn to map incentives so you can see the gravitational pull shaping words. Because when words and motives collide, the sparks don't lie. They light the way. Chapter 3. Motives speak louder than words. On the morning our team pitched the new product roadmap, Evan was dazzling. He didn't oversell, he painted. Charts in friendly blues. Forecasts that rose like birds. He said the launch would practically fund itself through early adopters. The room relaxed as if exhaling. Afterward in the hallway, I heard him whisper to a colleague, "If we hit Q3, the retention bonus locks." It was casual, not sinister, but in that instant the picture sharpened. Evan believed every slide. He also needed those slides to be true. Both can live in the same body. Think about this for a moment. How often do you hear something persuasive and forget to ask the simplest question? What happens to this person if I believe them? We're taught to evaluate content facts, numbers, logic. We forget to evaluate gravity. Motives are gravity. They bend words, not always toward deceit, often toward emphasis, omission, confidence, and hurry. When you map the gravity, the orbit of the conversation makes sense. Here's the kind of truth about human behavior. We are meaning makers and we are survivalists. Psychology calls it motivated reasoning. We don't just think and then decide. We decide what we want, then think in that direction. Fear, desire, and status pull on our narratives like tides. Fear of loss makes us understate risk. Desire makes the upside glow. Status keeps us performing for the audience we value, boss, partner, peer group, even our own proud self-image. When someone speaks, you're not only hearing their words, you're hearing the currents that carry them. Pause and ask yourself, whose outcome improves if I believe this? Go one layer deeper, whose outcome worsens if I don't? If the answers point to the same person, expect pressure, urgency, superlatives, certainty that outruns humility. If the answers point to different people, expect conflict hedging, ambiguity, or a split the difference pitch that protects relationships. Map the pressure and you'll understand the tone before the sentence ends. Let's bring this to life with everyday scenes. The realtor who calls a fixer-upper a charming blank canvas, earns commission when you purchase soon. Waiting costs them, so the motive bends towards speed and romance. A friend raves about a miracle supplement because she sells it on the side. She genuinely thinks it helped her, and she also needs you to sign up. Your teenager says everyone's going because social capital depends on inclusion. The motive bends toward normalizing. In each case, truth may be present, but the volume knob is set by incentives. Here's a simple tool. The motive triangle: fear, desire, status. Ask which corner is glowing. Fear, what could they lose? Desire, what could they gain? Status, how will they look in front of someone who matters to them? Then run the flip test. If the motive flipped no bonus, no commission, no peer audience, would their message change? If the answer is yes dramatically, discount the certainty and increase verification. If the answer is not much, your trust meter rises. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Sometimes the deepest motive isn't money or applause, it's belonging. A partner might say, "I'm fine with your late nights." Not because they don't care, but because they fear pushing you away. A manager might downplay risks because the team needs hope to keep going. These are tender motives, and they still bend words. Compassion doesn't mean blindness, it means you test with care. Applications you can use today. First, set the table with transparent interest. Try, I want what's best for both of us, and I also want to meet my deadline. What matters most to you here? This surfaces motives early where they can breathe. Second, ask cost questions. What would make this a bad idea for you? People reveal motive by what they're protecting. Third, ask timeline questions. What changes if we decide next week instead of today? Urgency often exposes who benefits from your speed. Consider Layla choosing between two contractors. Contractor A talks only about beauty and assures her, "We can start Monday, but the quote is good today only." Contractor B says, "If we wait a week, tile prices might drop, but we'd push you into mid-October." Contractor B places motive on the table. "We can work later, you might save money. Our schedule moves." Layla doesn't just hear competence, she hears aligned incentives. She chooses B, not because A is lying, but because B's motives are transparent and shared. Now a family example. Your brother asks to borrow your spare room for a little while. You love him. He also tends to expand into any space he's given. Map motives. He wants stability without rent. You want peace without guilt. Try this. I want you safe. I also need routines that keep the house sane. What would make this a win for both of us? Then add costs. What's the plan if this becomes longer than 2 months? You're not hunting a lie, you're aligning motives before reality does it the hard way. One more. Online advice. A creator reviews a productivity app and swears it changed everything. Under the video, this video is sponsored by... Sponsorship isn't deception, it's a motive. You can still learn. Just apply the flip test. Would the review be this glowing without the deal? Verify by sampling non-sponsored opinions and your own week-long trial. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Especially note a time you spotted a motive and made a wiser choice. Here's a phrase to keep handy. Help me understand what success looks like for you. It disarms defensiveness and invites disclosure. Another, what would make you say no to this? If the speaker can't name any conditions under which they'd advise against their own plan, motive may be overriding judgment. And a favorite timeline probe. If we slowed down, who would that be hard for? The answer points to where the gravity sits. Think about this for a moment. Motives aren't just out there. They live in you. When you want something badly, a second chance with someone, a title, a home, you will read evidence in your favor more brightly. Your motive will push your ears toward flattery and your eyes away from costs. Pause and ask yourself, what do I most want to be true right now? Then ask, What would I notice if I didn't want that? This small act returns your steering wheel to your hands. A caution: don't confuse motive with character. Good people carry strong motives. So do you. The question isn't, do they have a motive? It's, does their motive align with reality and respect my boundaries? When words and motives diverge, you'll hear friction over promising, minimizing, selective memory. When words and motives align, you'll hear proportion upsides and downsides, options and trade-offs, a willingness to delay if delay serves the truth. Let's return to Evan. After the hallway whisper, I asked, if we learned in 2 weeks that early adopters are slower than expected, what's our plan? He paused, then nodded. We'd scale the pilot and push the full launch. He added costs and contingencies. His motive to secure the bonus remained, but his willingness to name a backup told me his words could withstand gravity. That's the sound you're listening for. Not perfection, but proportion. We're about to tune your ear even further. Once you can feel the gravity of motives, you'll hear how it shapes language. Hedges, qualifiers, over-explanations, and artful detours. In the next chapter, we'll step into conversation and learn the sound of evasion, what it signals, and how to respond without turning the moment into a trial. Because when you can hear the music behind the words, you don't need a spotlight. You simply follow the rhythm toward the truth. Chapter 4. The Sound of Evasion. It started with a simple question across a quiet table. Were you with Alex last night? I asked. My partner's spoon paused above the bowl. So, the thing about last night, they began, is that the team chat blew up, and you know how my boss gets when a deadline is floating. And honestly, the traffic on 6th was a disaster, and I figured you'd be asleep by the time I got in. The answer slid around the bowl like the spoon circling, never landing. I hadn't asked about the boss, or traffic, or my sleep schedule. I'd asked a yes or no question. What I heard was a detour, paved with politeness and the hope that I'd take the scenic route and forget where we started. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you asked something straightforward and been handed a bouquet of context instead of the flower you requested? Evasion is rarely a bold-faced lie. Most of the time, it's a subtle redirection, hedges, qualifiers, over-explaining, or the innocent-sounding later. It's the difference between answering and addressing. Evasion addresses your feelings, the situation, the weather, your likely response, everything except the question. Psychology offers a kind explanation. When people feel their image, freedom, or belonging is threatened, the nervous system looks for exits. Some of those exits are linguistic. We hedge, kind of, sort of, basically. We soften. It may be that, as far as I know. We distance. That situation, someone I know. We generalize. Everyone does this. Or we shift to the passive voice. Mistakes were made. These are not villain moves, they're self-protective maneuvers. Politeness theory says we try to save face ours and theirs. Grice's conversational maxim suggests that good communication honors relevance and quantity. Evasion quietly breaks both, offering too much that isn't what we asked for. Pause and ask yourself, when was your last non-answer? Did you give one or receive one? Replay it for 10 seconds. Where did the conversation slide? Was it a hedge, a timeline fog, an enthusiastic stack of reasons? Notice your body. Did your shoulders tense? Did your breath hold? Your nervous system hears evasion before your brain names it. Here's the key distinction. An explanation can coexist with an answer, but it should not replace it. An honest rhythm sounds like this. Yes, here's what happened. Or number, here's why. Evasion reverses the order or deletes the answer entirely. Here's a lot of why, and oops, we're out of time. When you're on the receiving end, you don't need a cross-examination. You need a gentle way to return to the front door. Try the AER move. Acknowledge, echo, return. Acknowledge the offered context. I hear there was traffic and late messages. Echo the original question. My question was, were you with Alex? You return to it with calm. A simple yes or no helps me. This isn't a trap. It's a handrail that keeps the conversation from sliding into the weeds. Let's bring this into everyday life. Your colleague promises a report by Tuesday. Tuesday arrives. You ask, "Is the report ready?" They say, "We had a surprise audit and the vendor portal went down, and to be fair, the scope changed last minute." You can hear the sincerity. You can also hear the absence. Use AER. "I hear there was an audit and the portal failed. My question was, is the report ready?" If they keep looping, try the short answer request. "Give me the one-word answer first." Then the story. With teenagers, evasion often wears humor. "Where were you after practice?" "Oh my gosh, coach had us doing suicides. My legs are still noodles, remember that meme you sent?" You'll be tempted to follow the meme. Instead, funny. One word first, where? Then receive the answer without punishment so honesty doesn't learn to hide. Another tool is TAR, Topic Answer Return. You use it on yourself when you tend to over-explain, and you model it in groups so clarity becomes culture. Topic: Vacation days. Answer: Yes, approved for the week you asked. Return: Now the backup plan while you're out. This three-beat structure trains brevity. People start mirroring it. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, sometimes evasion signals pain, not deceit. A survivor of harsh criticism may associate direct answers with punishment. Someone raised in chaos may have learned that stories soften blows. Neurodivergent communicators might need time to process before giving a clean yes or no. The solution isn't to hammer for answers. It's to create a runway where clarity can land safely. You do that with tone, pacing, and permission. Here are phrases that open the runway. "You don't have to convince me. A clear answer helps us solve it faster." "Let's separate reasons from reality. What's true right now?" "We can unpack the why after the what." "What's the what?" "I'm hearing context. I'm missing an answer." Notice how none of these accuse. They steer. Sometimes the evasion is yours. You feel it when you start justifying before you decide. You hear it when, to be honest, escapes your mouth. Why advertise honesty unless part of you worries it's in doubt? Think about this for a moment. What question in your life gets your longest answers? Who asks it? What are you afraid will happen if you answer plainly? Write the fear in one sentence. If I say I don't want to go, they'll be disappointed. If I say the deadline is impossible, I'll look incompetent. Now test that prediction with a small experiment. Try a simple answer once and notice the world does not end. Your courage recalibrates your reality. Practical exercise for today. Listen for 3 evasion markers hedges, sort of, maybe, qualifiers, honestly, to tell you the truth, and detours, overlong backstory before an answer. When you hear one, breathe once. Then use either AER or a short answer first request. If the person answers, relax your shoulders and say thank you. Reward clarity, not performance. Another scenario, negotiation. The other party says, "We're really excited about this partnership," when you ask about the contract date. Excitement is not a date. You can smile and still pin the board. "I'm glad to hear that. What date should I write on the draft?" If they repeat enthusiasm, you've learned something important about their leverage or intent. Either way, you've saved weeks of confusion by calling the conversation back to earth. With loved ones, add softness without losing spine. "I care about how stressed you've been, and I'm not here to catch you. I need a clear answer to feel safe." Pair that with a boundary. "If I can't get a direct answer, I'll pause this conversation and try again later." Boundaries turn evasion into a choice: clarity or delay. Most people, given safety and structure, choose clarity. Pause and ask yourself, when someone evades you, what do you usually do? Press harder, change the subject, or pretend you didn't notice? Which of those has ever produced trust? Consider a fourth path. Notice, name, and navigate. I'm noticing we're circling. I'm asking for a direct answer. Then we can talk about everything around it. Practice in low-stakes places, customer service calls, scheduling with friends, so the muscle is ready when it matters. If you're listening on YouTube, practice in the comments. Write a one-sentence version of a hard truth you keep decorating. Then add the gentle prompt you'll use next time someone hands you context instead of an answer. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your words might become someone else's spine. A brief caution. Don't treat every hedge as a confession. Anxiety, culture, and personality shape language. Some people default to softeners because they were punished for directness. That's why your job isn't to pounce. It's to model. Speak in clean lines. Yes. No. I don't know yet. Then add your humanity. Here's why, if you want it. When you normalize this rhythm, others adapt. In case you're wondering about the table and Alex, after AER and a long exhale, the answer came. It wasn't the one I wanted, but it was real. The conversation that followed was hard and clarifying, the kind that rearranges furniture inside you. We didn't fix everything that night. We did, however, stop wasting energy in the maze. That's what clarity does. It returns your feet to the floor. As you move through the next conversations in your life, carry this promise. You don't have to earn direct answers by performing patience or anger. You can simply request them kindly and clearly. You can build a life where yes means yes, no means no, and I don't know means we respect uncertainty until it grows up. And when Evasion hums in your ear, you'll recognize the song, smile, and press play on truth. Next, we'll look at a cousin of Evasion that loves to hide in plain sight. The timeline that keeps wobbling. Events drift, hours stretch, and memory turns to fog. In the following chapter, you'll learn to anchor stories to time without turning into a cop. Because when time clicks into place, truth has nowhere left to hide. Chapter 5. The body remembers. At the reunion, the ballroom lights were a little too bright, the kind that make everyone look successful. I found Sam near the punch bowl, a friend I hadn't seen since we were young enough to mistake bravado for confidence. We traded the usual highlights jobs, cities, the joke about how none of us use our major. Then I asked, "How's work really going?" Sam's smile stayed, but his shoulders lifted a half-inch and stayed there, as if bracing for a wave. He didn't fidget. He stopped. The stillness was its own movement. He said, "It's fine." A beat too late, and I felt that gentle internal click that means pay attention. The body whispers before the mouth contradicts it. With Sam, nothing obvious gave him away. No shifty eyes, no cartoon guilt. It was the breath that left him in pieces. He inhaled high in his chest, held it, then released in a narrow stream. When I shifted the topic to his kids, his shoulders softened, and his arms came alive again, sketching a story about a soccer game. When I asked about the new director at his firm, the stillness returned like a pulled handbrake. Same person, different body. The pattern wasn't proof of a lie, it was a map of where the truth felt dangerous. Think about this for a moment. Your body keeps a ledger of every conversation you've ever had where honesty cost you something. We call it the autonomic nervous system fight, flight, freeze, or fawn ancient gears that spin when identity or belonging feels at risk. In fight, the body leans forward, voice sharpens, hands cut the air. In flight, eyes scan exits, feet angle away, words hurry. Freeze looks like stillness that isn't calm. Shallow breathing, locked jaw, time dilation. Fawn becomes helpfulness on overdrive agreeableness that pays for safety. None of these equal lying. They equal protecting. The phrase, "the body remembers," doesn't mean we've stored perfect data. It means association. If telling the truth once upon a time led to humiliation, your nervous system learns to armor up around that topic. If apologizing got you punished, you might over-explain instead. This is why single cues are unreliable. A fidget may be coffee. Averted gaze may be cultural respect. A steady stare may be rehearsed. We're not building a lie detector, we're building a compassion detector that notices when someone's system goes into defense and asks why. Here's the first practical rule: baseline before meaning. Notice the person on topics that carry no weight music. Weather, last night's recipe. How do they breathe? Do they gesture? Do they lean in or stay compact? Then watch for the moment the topic shifts and their baseline shifts with it. Is the change global? They panic on everything because they're anxious? Or is it local? They only stiffen on one subject. Local changes tell you where to gently probe. Pause and ask yourself, when someone close to you talks about money, parents, deadlines, or intimacy, what happens in their body, their breath, shoulders, hands? What happens in yours? Many of us try to read others while ignoring that our own nervous system is shouting in all caps. If your chest tightens, you'll hear threat in neutral sentences. If your jaw locks, you'll interrupt before you listen. Your body is not just an instrument, it's part of the duet. Second rule: regulate before investigate. If you want the truth, create conditions where the body can stand down. Lower your voice. Drop your shoulders. Place both feet on the floor. Take one visible, slow exhale. Say, "We have time." Safety expands working memory. That alone can turn a flat, "I don't know," into a narrative that actually remembers. If you're in a role with power manager, parent, elder, your nervous system sets the temperature of the room. Cool water makes deeper currents visible. In the workplace, this looks like noticing the intern who stops blinking when the deadline is mentioned. Rather than, "Are you behind?" try, "Walk me through where the work is now." We'll figure out next steps together. Then watch what returns. Breath first, then detail. When detail increases with safety, you're seeing anxiety, not deceit. At home, it might sound like, "I'm on your side, and I'm confused." Let's both take a breath. When you think of last night, what parts feel foggy and what parts feel sharp? You're asking their body to sort without shame. How do you distinguish stress from deception in the wild? Patterns and proportions. Anxiety shows up across topics. Deception is topic selective. Anxiety usually decreases as you slow the pace. Deception tends to maintain or increase effort when cornered over asserting certainty, adding unnecessary specifics or going too still for too long. Anxiety welcomes help locating memory. "Can I jog your memory with a few prompts?" Deception resists transparency. "Why are you interrogating me?" Even then, remember, a corner breeds more fear. Step back, widen the path, and ask for the next honest detail, not the entire confession. Use the ABCs of embodied clarity: anchors, baseline, change. Anchors are yours: breath, feet, a relaxed jaw. Baseline is theirs, how they are under no threat. Change is the story the body tells when the topic shifts. When you see change, you don't announce it like a traffic cop. You mirror gently. "I noticed your shoulders lifted when we talked about budget. What's happening for you right now?" Then shut up. The silence is a bridge. "But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper?" Yes. Neurodivergent friends may avoid eye contact to concentrate. Trauma can make sequence hard freeze isn't a choice. It's a nervous system reflex. Some cultures interpret steady gaze as disrespect. If you impose a single cultural template on everyone's body, you will commit small violences and miss the truth you claim to love. The remedy is humility. "Here's what I'm noticing. How does that land for you?" Let them teach you their baseline. Here's a small exercise you can try today. In your next conversation, silently count your exhale to 4 twice. Then, for 10 seconds, watch the other person's breath, chest, or belly. Fast or slow. When the topic changes, scan again. If you notice a spike, don't pounce. Offer safety and specificity. No rush. Start wherever it's easiest. Or, we can take this one piece at a time. You will be amazed how much memory returns when the body is convinced it won't be punished. Another practical tool: movement resets meaning. If a conversation is stuck, just change your posture or location. Sit beside instead of across. Walk while you talk. Bilateral movement calms the limbic system. Say, "Let's take a loop around the block. I think better when I move." Truth likes to ride shotgun with motion because the body exits threat mode. If you're listening on YouTube and trying these tools, share your observations. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your examples teach the whole community. Back to the reunion. I said to Sam, when I asked about work, you got very still. I care more about you than your title. Want to try again? He laughed softly, and in the laugh his shoulders finally dropped. I got laid off, he said. I've been freelancing and telling people I'm consulting. I didn't want to be the guy who didn't make it. There it was. Not a villain's lie. A human's shame. His body had told the truth first, and once it was safe, his mouth followed. We stood in the too bright light, two grown-ups letting reality have the first word, and the friendship felt more alive than any curated update ever could. Pause and ask yourself, where does your own body armor up? Which topics make your breath shallow, your shoulders climb, your hands go quiet? What would happen if you named that pattern out loud with one trusted person? When we talk about money, I freeze. Give me a minute, and don't mistake my quiet for hiding. The more you own your nervous system kindly, the less power it has to derail clarity. Let's end with a promise you can keep. You will not judge a single cue. You will watch for clusters and context. You will make your body a safe place to hear the truth by anchoring your breath and softening your stance. And you will give others the same gift permission to feel what they feel while you ask for what you need to know. The body remembers, yes. With practice, it can remember safety too. In the next chapter, we'll take this steadiness and point it at time itself. Stories wobble, calendars don't. We'll learn how to anchor a narrative to a sequence without turning the conversation into a cross-exam, so that when the hours stretch or shrink, you'll know what to ask and when to stop. Because when time clicks into place, the truth can't wander far. Chapter 6. Truth in the Timeline. The morning the story finally bent into shape, I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store, looking at a crumpled receipt. It was time-stamped 9:41 p.m., a Tuesday. My friend Daniel had sworn he'd been home by 9 at the latest after a company happy hour. He'd even joked about turning into a pumpkin if he stayed out too late. But the receipt was for a bottle of ginger ale and a pack of mints from a corner shop on the other side of town, the exact neighborhood where the happy hour had been. I hadn't been looking for evidence. The receipt had stuck to my shoe and come home with me, one of those ridiculous accidental mile markers that the universe sometimes drops in your lap. When I asked Daniel about it later, he blinked. Time got weird, he said. I thought I left around 8:30. Time got weird. He wasn't wrong. Memory does that, but the calendar doesn't care how we felt. Only when we swiped, bought, checked in, came home. Think about this for a moment. How often do your own stories float free of the clock? We compress days that are full and stretch minutes that are anxious. We say yesterday when we mean last week. We swear a meeting took 5 minutes when the calendar says 42. The timeline is where truth comes to land. Not because people are liars, but because the brain is more of a novelist than a stenographer. It writes for meaning, not minutes. Psychology gives us kind language for this. There's time compression, when emotionally dense experiences feel shorter than they were. Telescoping, when recent events are remembered as more distant and distant events as more recent. And the simple problem of working memory under stress, our ability to keep sequences straight shrinks. Add social pressure, looking competent, avoiding conflict, and timelines wobble. The point isn't to accuse, it's to anchor. Here's the practice. You become a maker of mile markers. You listen for natural anchors before, after, first, then last, and any public event that fixes time. Before the game started. Right after the Zoom. When the store lights were off. You don't need a stopwatch. You need sequence. Because sequence is where contradictions either harmonize or fall apart. Back to Daniel. I didn't wave the receipt like a flag. I slowed the pace. Walk me through your evening, I said, from the moment you left your desk. He said he met the team at 6:15, ordered food by 7, left after a last round. He thought he'd walk to the train, but now that he pictured it, he remembered stopping at the corner shop. His throat had been sore. He forgot that part earlier, he said, because it felt like nothing. There's a lesson inside that sentence. What feels like nothing to the storyteller can be everything to the sequence. Neutral questions let those nothings appear. Try this in your life. When a story wobbles, ask timeline questions that move like stepping stones instead of spotlights. What happened first? What came right after that? What was the very last thing before you left? If you need to anchor, use public pins. The store closes at 10 where the lights on or off? Did you leave before or after the 8:30 kickoff? These aren't traps. They're lines drawn on fog. Pause and ask yourself, where does your timeline get loose money, travel, online time, promises to yourself? Choose one area and set mile markers now. For example, if you're trying to be home by 9, take a quick photo of the front door when you walk in. If you're rebuilding trust, agree on a simple check-in. Text me when you leave the office. A photo of the train board helps. This isn't surveillance. It's shared reality when memory goes soft. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Absolutely. Timelines can wobble because we're ashamed, not because we're predatory. A teenager might say they got home earlier than they did because they're afraid of your disappointment. A manager might round Thursday up to Tuesday because they're trying to be the kind of leader who gets ahead of deadlines. Compassion matters. Yet compassion without calibration turns into confusion. We can be kind about why the time moved and still be clear about when it did. One of the cleanest tools you'll ever use is conversational timestamping. You simply attach times to events as you go, without judgment. Okay, so you left at 6:15, got food by 7, stopped at the shop around 9:40, and texted me at 9:55 from the train platform. Does that sound right? You say it slowly. You watch for the wince. If the other person corrects, you don't pounce. You thank them. Truth returns when shame isn't taxed. Another tool is triangulation. Don't lean on a single source for time. You can cross-check with neutral artifacts, calendar invites, phone battery logs, receipts, transit records, even the sunset. In relationships, triangulation can be as simple as recalling a shared moment. Was Jeopardy still on when you got in? In teams, it's the stand-up note or commit history. The goal isn't to build a case, it's to give memory a scaffold. Think about this for a moment. Your own timeline will sometimes need rescue. We're all historians of our better selves. If you catch yourself smoothing the order, try rephrasing in real time. I want to say I was home by 9. Looking at the receipt, I think it was closer to 10. Thank you for letting me correct that. Notice what that sentence does. It honors intention, corrects reality, and adds gratitude. That's how timelines heal trust instead of bruise it. What about the interrogator trap? How do you keep timeline questions from turning the moment into a cross-exam? Pace and purpose. You move at a human speed, you soften your face, and you state your why up front. I'm not trying to catch you, I'm trying to understand the order so I can relax. Or, sequence helps me feel safe. Let's build it together. If the other person floods, you throttle down. Let's just place 3 pins. When you left, one thing in the middle, when you got home. There's also a way to use time to de-escalate. If a fight loops, take it to the calendar. What are we actually deciding by Friday? What would change if we waited a week? What's the earliest, smallest step that proves we're moving? Time boxing arguments forces the fog to choose a shape. It respects energy and prevents endless, timeless blame. A caution. Timelines create the illusion of certainty. Artifacts can be wrong. Clocks drift, receipts stamp late, apps sync slowly, and trauma scrambles sequence in honest brains. Don't worship the clock. Use it as one witness among many. When the human in front of you says, "Time got weird," hear the clue about their state, not just the excuse. Then pair empathy with the next precise question. Practical scripts to pocket. Walk me through it like a movie. First frame, middle frame, last frame. If we rewound 30 minutes from there, what would we see you doing? What happened right before you decided to leave? Let me mirror your timeline and you correct me where I'm off. In teams, turn timeline work into culture. End meetings with a sequence sentence. By Tuesday 4 p.m., Sam sends the draft. By Wednesday noon, Pat edits. By Thursday 10 a.m., we ship. One sentence, 3 pins. In families, post a shared calendar with gentle checkpoints. Clarity is a kindness future you will thank present you for. When I circled back with Daniel, we rebuilt the evening together. Nothing scandalous had happened. Just a drift, a ginger ale, a train that ran late. What had felt like evasion turned out to be embarrassment about losing track of time on a weeknight. We agreed on a simple practice. Text when leaving, add an ETA, update if the ETA slides. The world didn't need a courtroom. It needed 3 pins and a little grace. Pause and ask yourself, what is one place this week where a shared timeline would lower your heart rate? A project deliverable? A curfew? Your own bedtime? Write the sequence sentence for it now, then follow it once. Notice the peace that arrives when your story and your clock shake hands. If you're listening on YouTube, try a timeline experiment and tell us what you discover. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your example might be the mile marker someone else needed. As we move on, you'll learn the questions that unlock truth without force, the kind that invite details to walk in on their own. We've anchored stories to time. Next, we'll discover how to open the right doors with the right words, so people want to step through them. Because when you ask well, the clock doesn't just tell, the heart does too. Chapter 7. Questions that unlock. The airport speaker coughed out another delay, the kind that makes an entire gate recalibrate its patience. I was sitting beside a man in a navy blazer, tapping a pen against a boarding pass, studying a spreadsheet with the dread of someone who knows a number won't be kind. Across from us, a woman in a green scarf paced a tight oval, phone to ear, voice a quick whisper. "Of course I'm on my way," she said. "Security was a nightmare." She hung up and glanced at the window where our plane sat perfectly still, attached to the jet bridge like a barnacle. She caught me noticing. Her smile arrived late. "Long day?" I asked. She laughed in that high, airy way that wants to float above gravity. "You have no idea." She looked at the plane again. "I'm supposed to be in Denver already." Her hands fluttered once and landed on the tote bag at her feet. I heard the earlier lessons humming, the body's stillness, the timeline's wobble, but I decided to practice a different skill, the question that turns a key instead of jabbing at a lock. "Walk me through your morning," I said, gentle as a warm towel. "What was the first moment it went sideways?" She blinked, surprised by the kindness in the invitation. "Honestly," she said, then smiled at her own qualifier. "The Uber canceled at 5:40. After that, I kept trying to fix it instead of just leaving." She exhaled. "I told my boss I was boarding. I'm not. I hate how that feels." The truth didn't arrive because I cornered her. It arrived because the question made room. Think about this for a moment. Most of us are taught to ask questions like, we're driving a car, straight lines, quick turns, arrive fast. Did you do it? Why are you late? Is this ready? Those have their place. But the questions that unlock don't speed. They invite. They are open. What happened next? Neutral, how did you decide that? And layered, one small, non-threatening step, followed by another. They give the nervous system time to uncoil, and they give memory a handrail to walk down. There's a psychology under the hood. When you ask an open question without accusation, you reduce threat. Threat shrinks working memory. Safety expands it. And when you ask neutral, timeline-shaped questions, you activate recall rather than defense. The brain likes sequences. First, next, last is a path through the forest. Add silence, the real kind, where you breathe and keep your face soft, and the other person's mind fills the quiet with detail. Silence is fertilizer for specificity. Pause and ask yourself, when you're hungry for clarity, do your questions force or free? Replay the last conversation that got tight. Did you use why in a way that felt like a verdict? Did you stack 3 questions into one breath? What would have happened if you had asked one small, honest question and then let it echo? Here's a simple framework. Open, narrow, check 3 beats that build trust while building truth. Open. What happened after you left the office? Narrow. Who was with you when you reached the bar? Check. Did I get that right? The open question invites a story. The narrow question adds contour. The check question repairs errors before they harden into accusations. You're not interrogating, you're making a map together. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Sometimes the right question isn't informational, it's emotional. A person cannot recall the map if they feel unsafe in the landscape. That's why an unlocking question can sound like, "What's the part you're most afraid to tell me?" Or, "What would make this easier to say out loud?" These questions don't corner, they confess. They make the conversation a team sport. Let's bring this to ground level with 3 scenes. Scene 1. A teenager and the car keys. You ask, "Were you speeding?" They answer, "Not really." That's a conversational cul-de-sac. Try open, narrow, check. Tell me about the drive home. Open. Where did you see the speed sign change? Narrow. So the limit dropped to 30 by the school and you were still at 38. Did I get that right? Check. Then add a reflective pause. What do you wish you'd done differently? Now you're not just auditing, you're coaching. Scene 2. The team stand-up. You ask your lead, "Is the feature done?" They say, "We're close." That's soft clay. Try walk me through what's in close. What's done? What's in progress? What's blocked? Then, if we had to demo today, what would you show? Finally, what's the smallest slice we can ship without breaking trust? These questions create options instead of shame. Options make truth easier to choose. Scene 3, an apology gone sideways. You ask your partner, "Why didn't you tell me?" They hear indictment. Try, "What was the moment you decided not to tell me?" Then listen. Follow with, "What did you hope would happen by waiting?" Usually the motive appears. Fear of ruining a good night. Hope that the problem would solve itself. Understanding motive doesn't erase harm. It helps you aim your boundary accurately. Here are scripts you can pocket today. Paint me a picture of the moment you... What was the first sign something felt off? If I had been standing beside you, what would I have seen? On a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you about that detail? What would move at one point? What would you tell me if there were no consequences for a minute? Notice the shape. Concrete, non-judgmental, permission-granting. After a good question, give the gift of 3 beats of silence. Count them in your head if you must. The other person will often walk through the space you just made. Think about this for a moment. What question would unlock you? When you're the one who's afraid, what would you love to hear? Perhaps, "You're not in trouble. I want the truth more than I want a perfect story." Or you can say, "I don't know yet. We can find out together." Write the sentence you wish someone had asked you at a hard moment in your life. Now offer that sentence the next time you see someone wrestling with a closed door. A word about why. It's powerful and perilous. "Why did you do that?" Often sounds like "defend yourself." Swap it for "what led you there?" Or "how did you decide?" You'll get the same information without lighting up the courtroom in the other person's head. When why is necessary, why does this matter to you? Soften your tone and slow your pace. Your voice is part of the question. And a word about leading questions, the kind that smuggle the answer in their trunk. You weren't with Alex, were you? You're going to hit the deadline, right? These are attempts to purchase reassurance on credit. You get a yes today and the bill tomorrow. Ask cleanly, were you with Alex? What date will you deliver? Clean questions attract clean answers. Messy questions recruit actors. Pause and ask yourself, which question from your past conversations do you wish you could retire? Circle it. Replace it with one from the scripts above. The next time your mouth reaches for the old line, upgrade it. This is how we change conversations, one swapped question at a time. As the gate agent finally called pre-boarding, the woman in the green scarf zipped her bag and gave me a small, rueful smile. "Thanks," she said, "for not judging." I shook my head. "You did the brave part." She held up her phone. "I'm going to call him back before we take off." Questions don't just expose, they empower. When we ask well, people often choose better not to please us, but to return to themselves. If you're listening on YouTube, practice with us. What is one clean, unlocking question you'll use this week? With a colleague, a partner, or yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your question might be the key someone else needed. We're headed next into a paradox that changes everything. Sometimes the most powerful truth comes dressed as a boundary. You'll learn the grace and strength of the honest no, how permission can invite sincerity more effectively than pressure ever could. Because when people don't have to perform to stay safe, their answers get brave. Chapter 8. The Honest No. The grill smoked the way summer always promises it will, and my brother Jake hovered with a paper plate like a hopeful satellite. We'd been here before, family, music, a borrowed truck that returned late and lighter on gas. He cleared his throat. "Hey, can I take the truck this weekend?" "Just Saturday, maybe Sunday morning." The old dance tugged at my mouth. Say yes, stay resentful, repair later. But something in me had been practicing. I set down the tongs, felt my feet, and said softly, "I'm not able to lend the truck this weekend." I let the period stand on its own two legs. Then I added, "If you want to talk through what you're trying to solve, I'm here." He blinked like I'd spoken a new language. For a second, I saw the script he'd prepared crumple. He looked down at his plate, then back up. "I actually need it to move some stuff," he said. "I'm changing apartments. It's complicated." His voice wavered on that last word. "They raised the rent. I fell behind." There it was. The truth walking in without a disguise because it didn't have to fight my pretending. "Okay," I said. "Let's plan what you need, not what sounds good." An hour later, we had 3 names for trucks for hire, a Sunday slot on my calendar to help him pack, and a plan that didn't require me to swallow my own boundary to prove I loved him. Think about this for a moment. How many small deceptions in your life were born in the vacuum where a kind, clean no should have gone? We say yes to avoid discomfort, then build a maze of half-truths to manage the fallout running late because we couldn't say we never wanted to go. Forgetting a deadline we agreed to but couldn't meet. Blaming traffic for a promise we didn't have the bandwidth to keep. The honest no doesn't break trust. It protects it from slow leaks. Psychology has a name for why this works: autonomy. When people feel their choices are respected, defensiveness drops. Pressure triggers reactance, the urge to push back even when agreeing would be easier. Permission, by contrast, invites sincerity. The honest no is permission in action. For you to have a boundary and for the other person to tell the truth without performing. No stops the performance and opens a door. No, and here's what I can do. No, and I want to understand what you need. No, and let's find another way. Pause and ask yourself, where do you say yes because you're afraid no will make you unlovable, disloyal, or difficult? Let the first image arrive. The extra project you agree to because your boss's eyebrows rise. The weekend away you accept while your body whispers for rest. The family tradition you attend in a costume of "I'm fine." But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often, our yes is an identity costume. The dependable one, the chill partner, the good child, The honest no isn't a rejection of them. It's a graduation. Here's a simple structure you can use today. No why way. No. One clean sentence. Why? One line of principle, not an alibi. Way. One concrete path forward that you can actually sustain. Example. I'm not able to take this on. I'm protecting my existing commitments. I can review a draft Friday for 30 minutes. Notice the difference from the soft, slippery cousin. Maybe? I'll try. I'll try is a trap door that drops both of you later. Let's ground this in a few scenes. Workplace. Your manager asks you to just absorb another client for a month. You like being trusted. You also like sleeping. I want to help, and I'm at capacity. If we pause Project C, I can onboard the new client by Wednesday. Otherwise, I'm a no. You've offered a way that respects reality. You've turned a vague yes into a bounded one or a clean no. Friendship. A friend invites you to a late dinner the night before your early flight. Old you texts from the airport, exhausted. Honest you says, I'm passing on tonight to be a human tomorrow. Let's do brunch Sunday, my treat. They might tease, they might pout, they might surprise you with relief. Either way, the bill for your yes doesn't arrive in your bones at 5 a.m. Parenting, your teenager asks for the car past curfew. Because everyone's going. You breathe then. No to the late time? Yes to you taking the car until 10:30 with a check-in at 10:15. If you need later in the future, ask by Wednesday so we can plan. You are not a vending machine. You are a guide rail. Dating, after a nice but not right first date, you're tempted to ghost. Instead, thank you for tonight. I didn't feel a romantic click, so I won't take another date, but I appreciate the conversation. Wishing you well. That one text will clear more static from your life than 10 dramatic exits. It is also a public service. A gentle warning, an honest no can surface other people's honest feelings. Sometimes they will be disappointed because they had painted their needs onto your energy. That's not cruelty. That's clarity doing its job. The cost of a clean no is often paid once. The cost of a murky yes is paid in installments. Think about this for a moment. What are you afraid will happen if you say no? Write the prediction in a single sentence. They'll be angry. I'll lose the opportunity. They'll think I'm selfish. Now add a second sentence. What would happen if you said yes and then resented it? Both options carry a cost. The honest no lets you choose your cost in daylight. Here are phrases that make honesty easier. That won't work for me, and here's what might. I'm a no to the timeline. I'm a yes to the outcome. Let's explore other routes. I can't take this on without dropping something I've already promised. I don't have capacity, and I care about you. Let's brainstorm resources beyond me. I'm not comfortable with that. If that's a deal breaker, I understand. Notice the last one. An honest no gains power when you're willing to accept the consequence. That's the quiet courage most of us avoid because we think love is earned through endless compliance. Love, trust, and respect actually grow in the soil of reality. This is who I am. This is what I can do. This is where I end. But what if their ask is reasonable? Then your no will reveal something important about your bandwidth or your values. Adjust accordingly. But what if my no is a shield to avoid growth? Then you'll notice a pattern of smallness, always avoiding stretch, always choosing comfort over contribution. The honest no is not a lifestyle, it's a tool. Use it to protect the essential so you can say bigger yeses with integrity. A practice for this week. Choose one low-stakes ask and respond with no why way. Then choose one medium-stakes ask and do the same. Afterwards, sit for 1 minute and notice your body. Relief? Fear? Pride? Repeat. Clarity is a muscle. It grows with gentle reps. Pause and ask yourself, what no would, if spoken kindly today, simplify your next month? Who needs to hear it? What would you offer instead that you can keep? If you're listening on YouTube, share your sentence with the community no details required. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. You'll give someone else language to borrow when their mouth forgets how to choose them. Back at the grill, Jake left without the truck, but with something better. A plan he owned, not one I resented. Later that week, he sent a photo of keys in his palm. His new place captioned, "Paid the deposit. Thanks for the nudge." The honest no hadn't made me less loving. It had made me a clearer ally. Boundaries don't block love. They make the road visible. As we turn the page, we'll take this muscle clarity without hardness and apply it to the art of trust. How do you offer goodwill without becoming naive? How do you build trust like a ladder, rung by rung, instead of a leap that leaves you dangling? In the next chapter, we'll learn to calibrate openness and verification so you can relax into relationships that breathe, generous, observant, and strong. Chapter 9. Trust Without Naivety. The first time I handed my house key to someone new, I did it with a smile and a quiet prayer. Mara had just moved in down the hall. She watered her succulents on schedule, laughed at my bad jokes in the elevator, and brought over cinnamon muffins the week my deadlines piled up like snowdrifts. When I had to travel unexpectedly, I said, "Would you mind feeding the fern and grabbing the mail?" She said yes with that bright, uncomplicated tone that makes your shoulders drop. I came home to a swept floor, a Post-it on the counter. "Welcome back," and a stack of mail tidy as a lesson. Trust felt easy. 2 weeks later, my spare key was missing. Mara swore she'd placed it in the bowl. Maybe it slipped under the mat? We searched, we laughed it off. But that night, every creak in the hallway sounded like a story sharpening its teeth. I lay awake realizing that the key hadn't only opened my door, it had opened a part of me that wanted to live unguarded. In the morning, I changed the lock and texted Mara with kindness and clarity. Her reply was immediate. A photo of the key stuck to the underside of her metal water bottle by the magnetized ring. "I'm so sorry," she wrote. "I panicked because I knew it mattered." The truth arrived with a blush, and my heart learned a lesson. Trust is not a leap, it's a ladder. Think about this for a moment. When did you last hand someone a metaphorical key because it felt good to believe? We love the relief of all in, the collapse into certainty. But relationships, romantic, professional, familial, rarely reward leaps. They reward calibration. Trust grows like a garden, planted in small squares, watered regularly, pruned when needed. Too little trust and nothing blooms. Too much, too fast, and vines take the house. Psychology has language for the dance. There's reciprocal altruism give and get over time, and there are trust cues we read automatically. Reliability across small tasks, transparency about limits, responsiveness when mistakes happen. Our brains build Bayesian maps unconsciously. Each new signal updates the prior. We don't need statistics to practice this, we need habits. Here's the habit I call the trust ladder. Rung 1. Low stakes, high visibility commitments. Text when you arrive. Send the link by noon. Feed the fern. Rung 2. Moderate stakes with feedback loops. Hold the spare key. Own this part of the project. Rung 3. Higher stakes, shared risk, clear contingencies. Share a bank account. Co-sign the loan. Tell me the truth when it could cost you. You don't climb because someone makes beautiful promises. You climb because they keep the small ones and repair quickly when they miss. Pause and ask yourself, where did you skip rungs because hope was louder than history? Maybe you hired fast because the resume sang. Maybe you forgave quickly because the apology performed well. Maybe you moved in because of the chemistry wrote poems in your head. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often what pushes us upward too fast is loneliness, urgency, or identity. I'm the kind of person who believes in people. You can keep that identity and still install rails. Let's get practical. First, define observable trust behaviors. Reliability is not "I care." It's "I respond within 24 hours." Honesty is not "I'm a straight shooter." It's "I bring up problems when they're small." Loyalty is not ride or die. It's, I won't speak about you in ways I wouldn't say to you. Write your three. Share them early. You're not issuing a contract. You're describing the climate where your trust grows. Second, use trust pilots. Before you hand someone the whole garden, give them a bed to tend. In love, that might be planning a weekend. Budget, logistics, recovery time. In teams, it's a contained deliverable with a demo date. In friendships, it's a vulnerable disclosure with a boundary. I'm sharing this because I trust you. Please don't pass it on. Then watch not only what they do, but how they repair when they stumble. Everyone stumbles. Repair is the X-ray. Third, calibrate with small reveals, not confessions bought on credit. Share a slice of your story, not the whole archive. Notice whether it's held with care or used for leverage. Does the person check in, ask permission to share, reflect your meaning back, or do they turn your story into their stage? The former earns the next rung. The latter earns a pause. Think about this for a moment. Where do you give people final exam trust before they've taken a quiz? Where do you keep people at quiz level long after they've aced the midterm? Both are forms of fear. One fears scarcity and rushes. The other fears betrayal and stalls. Calibration asks for courage in both directions. At work, trust without naivety looks like verification without vibe policing. You don't need to read souls, you can read outcomes. Convert promises into artifacts, decision logs, meeting notes, deadlines with names. Use public boards where progress is visible. This reduces the space for heroic narratives that outrun reality. It also protects good actors from suspicion because their steadiness has a trail. In love, it looks like giving trust containers. I want to trust our finances. Let's do a monthly money date. What came in, what went out, what surprised us. Or, I want to trust your independence. If plans change after 10 p.m., send a quick update so I can sleep. You're not surveilling, you're creating scaffolds so trust can scale. A word on red flags and green flags. Red flags are not just dramatic betrayals, they're patterns. Chronic lateness paired with excellent explanations. Secrecy about small things. Joking away your needs. Urgency that serves them, not you. Green flags are quieter. They keep their own boundaries. They don't punish your no. They name their limits before you trip over them. They circle back unprompted when they miss. Train your attention to notice green as eagerly as red fear will make you a better bouncer than a better builder. Pause and ask yourself, what's one green flag you've overlooked because drama was louder? Who in your life keeps small promises consistently? What rung might they have earned that you never offered? Let me be clear. Calibrated trust isn't suspicious. It's merciful. It spares you the exhaustion of guarding everything and the wreckage of surrendering all at once. It gives people a fair path to win your confidence without performing perfection. And it gives you a way to restore trust after a breach, not by pretending the breach never happened, but by returning to lower rungs and working upward. For a while, we'll do weekly check-ins. After 3 months of steadiness, we'll widen the lane. Dignity lives in that sentence for both of you. But what about forgiveness? Forgiveness is a gift. Trust is a system. You can forgive fully and still rebuild access slowly. You can love and still verify. People confuse these because both feel warm when offered. One warms your heart, the other warms your calendar and your sleep. If you're listening on YouTube, add your wisdom to the ladder we're building together. What's one behavior that earns your trust quickly and one that erodes it? Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your examples help someone else right-size their hope. Here are a few sentences to keep in your pocket. I want to trust this. Let's start with a small version and see how it goes. I'm a yes with checkpoints. Here, here, and here. When something goes wrong, tell me early. We'll solve it better than if it arrives as a surprise. I'm not asking for guarantees, I'm asking for a plan. One last story. After the key incident, Mara knocked on my door with a tiny gift. A key ring that clipped closed with a satisfying click. I'd like to earn it back, she said. We started small, plant watering again, then mail during a weekend trip, then cat feeding with a twice-a-day text and a photo of a grumpy tabby named Olive. Each success rewired both our nervous systems. We moved from awkward to ordinary, from braced to relaxed. Months later, when a pipe burst in my kitchen while I was out of town, Mara had the key, the presence of mind, and the plumber's number. Trust had not made me naive. It had made me ready. Pause and ask yourself, what is one rung you can offer this week to someone who's earned it? What is one rung you can reclaim from a place you gave too much too soon? Write them down, then step. We're about to enter rooms where trust is tested by design negotiations that pulse with urgency, tactics that twist timelines and motives, conversations where shadows borrow the shape of truth. Next, we'll learn how to slow the game, reset the table, and bargain without losing your center. Because when you can trust without naivety, you're already halfway to negotiating with shadows and winning. Chapter 10. Negotiating with Shadows. The sales office smelled like coffee and fresh ink, a scent designed to make decisions feel official. I was there to replace a dying laptop. The associate's slick hair, bright smile glided over with the charm of a well-practiced song. "You're lucky," he said, tapping the glossy box. "This is our last one at the promo price. If you decide today, I can throw in the extended warranty." He slid a paper toward me and placed a pen on top like a crown. My pulse quickened a notch. The clock on the wall seemed to tick louder. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "We close in 10. I'd hate for you to miss this." Urgency is a fog machine. It fills the room so you can't see the exits you walked in through. I felt the old pressure to prove I was decisive, the tiny panic that says, if I pause, I'll lose. But I'd been practicing a different script. I placed the pen down gently and said, "I'm not deciding in a countdown. If the price only exists for the next 9 minutes, it's not the right price for me." His smile faltered. The fog thinned. We started again. Think about this for a moment. How many choices in your life felt like the only choice because someone compressed time around you? Negotiating with shadows isn't about haggling a sticker price. It's about recognizing tactics that shrink your thinking. Urgency traps, guilt trips, confusion confetti, and gaslighting that tries to rewrite your memory while you're still inside it. You don't need aggression to meet them. You need oxygen and a compass. Here's the compass. Your botna. Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's the backup plan you can live with. A different laptop across town. Another job interview next month. A Saturday without the deal, but with your peace. Knowing your botna restores oxygen because it widens your field of view. You remember that no isn't the end. It's a path. Pause and ask yourself, what is your botna in the conversation you're dreading? Say it out loud. If this offer doesn't honor my value, I continue the search. If this apartment won't fix the mold, I keep looking. If we can't find a schedule that respects my body, I pass. Naming the alternative doesn't make you stubborn, it makes you steady. Shadows love 3 tricks. First, urgency. This price ends today. The board meets in an hour. Second, guilt. After everything I've done, you're really going to say no? Third, gaslighting. I never said that when both of you know they did. Add confusion confetti. Overloading you with details to exhaust your clarity, and you've got a perfect storm. Your antidotes are time, transparency, and translation. Time. Claim it. I decide tomorrow after I review. We'll pause here and resume Thursday. If they punish your pause, you've learned the truth sooner and cheaper than you would have after signing. Transparency. Name the tactic without venom. I'm noticing a rush. I make better decisions without a timer. That sounds like a guilt framing, and guilt isn't a great basis for a fair agreement. We discussed X last week. I can pull up the email. When you label a move, you disarm it. Translation, turn fog into terms. When you say premium care, What are the exact services, dates, and costs? When you say flexible hours, what start and end times are we agreeing to? Shadows hate specifics. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Sometimes, yes. People rush you because they're rushed by their bosses. Family guilts you because guilt is the only tool they were ever given. Someone denies a memory because facing it would topple the identity they need to get through the day. Compassion doesn't require capitulation. You can see the frightened child behind the tactic and still say, "No, that won't work." A simple practice I rely on in live negotiations is a 4-step reset I call SLOW. Stop, label, offer, write. Stop, take one visible breath, set down any pen, and relax your shoulders. Label, we're moving fast, or we're circling, or that's a lot at once. Offer, a structure that restores fairness. Let's list decisions in order. Let's compare apples to apples. Let's table this and revisit tomorrow. Write, capture what's agreed. I'll email our bullet points now so we're aligned. Slow turns a power play into a process. It's not theatrical, it's procedural dignity. Consider a workplace scene. Your manager asks you to take on weekend coverage just this once. You hear the tug in your chest, that old desire to be indispensable. SLOW, stop. Label, we've had a few just this once moments lately. Offer, I can cover this weekend if we rotate a schedule and I get a weekday off next week. Write, I'll send the rotation proposal today. You're not stonewalling, you're architecting. Or take a relationship moment. Your partner says, "You're overreacting, I never flirted." You remember the hand on the back, the lingering laugh? Gaslighting is a fog that asks you to abandon yourself. SLOW. Stop. Label. I'm hearing you say it didn't happen. My memory says it did. Offer. Let's watch for this together at the next gathering and talk on the way home. Write, lightly. For now, I need a boundary no physical affection with others that could read as intimate. You're choosing your reality without turning the room into a court. Another tool. Numbers over narratives. In compensation talks, swap "I feel underpaid" for "based on market ranges from sources A and B and my last 2 cycles of impact, I'm targeting XY." In rent negotiations, replace "this place needs work" with "given the mold remediation and 3 days without hot water, I'm proposing a Z credit." Narratives invite debate. Numbers invite math. Think about this for a moment. Which shadow gets you most urgency, guilt, confusion, or gaslighting? What sentence can you keep in your pocket for that one? For urgency, if the offer can't survive 24 hours, it isn't stable enough for me. For guilt, I appreciate what you've done. This decision still needs to fit my reality. For confusion, let's handle one item at a time. For gaslighting, I'm comfortable standing by my recollection. There's also the power of the walk-away rehearsal. Before a big conversation, practice the clean exit line you'll use if respect drops below your floor. I'm going to pause here. We can pick this up when we're both ready to discuss specifics. Or, "This doesn't meet my minimum, I'm a no." Saying it in your kitchen teaches your nervous system that you have a door. A small story about a car lot. A friend, Tessa, wanted a used hatchback. The dealer praised a model with a dented bumper as character. He layered on extras and today-only pricing. Tessa smiled. No add-ons. Out-the-door price, printed, itemized, and final. I'll decide tomorrow. He balked. She stood. Then I have my answer. She walked out, shaking. The next morning, a straightforward offer appeared in her inbox. Shadows hate daylight. She bought the car at a fair number with her spine intact. Pause and ask yourself, what minimums define a fair agreement for you? Price, timeline, respect, transparency. Write them once. In the room, your future self will thank you for handing them a list instead of adrenaline. If you're listening on YouTube, share one phrase that helped you defuse pressure, no secret details needed. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your line might become someone else's life raft. 2 final practices to carry forward. First, make pace a term. We negotiate price and scope, but rarely speed. Try. Part of my acceptance is a 48-hour review window for any major change. Pace is protection. Second, invite the other person back to honesty. Say, I'm not looking for a perfect deal. I'm looking for a fair one. What would make this fair for you? Often, the theatrics relax and a human shows up. When I left the laptop store that night, I didn't buy under the clock. I compared specs at home, slept, and returned the next day with my numbers. The price was suddenly still available. Imagine that. I said yes, not to the pressure, but to the terms I could live with. The machine hummed to life. So did my piece. We're about to learn a move that can turn even tense negotiations into honest conversations. Holding up the other person's words like a mirror so they can see themselves clearly and correct without shame. In the next chapter, we'll practice the mirror method reflective listening that surfaces what's unsaid and invites people to tell you the truth they didn't know they had. Because when people feel understood, shadows shrink and the room fills with light. Chapter 11. The Mirror Method. The fight started about dishes and ended up about childhood, as the most honest fights do. We were both tired. The sink was an exhibit, the week was the crime. I heard myself stacking arguments like plates. You said Tuesday, it's Friday. My partner's face hardened into that practiced calm that means a storm has learned to hold its breath. Then I did something new. I stopped arguing my case and held up a mirror instead. You're hearing that I don't see everything else you did, I said, slow and plain. The change was almost visible. His shoulders fell a notch. He nodded once. Yeah, he said, soft. I feel invisible. The room reshaped itself around that sentence. Dishes could wait. People go first. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt fully understood, not agreed with, not corrected, just accurately seen? The nervous system reads understanding as safety. Safety turns down the alarms and truth walks in without armor. That is the heart of the mirror method. Reflect, then guide. It's not a trick. It's a posture that says, I will meet you where you are before I ask you to move. Psychology has spoken this truth for decades. Carl Rogers called it unconditional positive regard paired with accurate empathy. The polyvagal folks would say that a steady, attuned voice signals safety, which widens working memory and makes nuance possible. In plain language, when people feel received, they stop performing and start telling you what's real. The mirror method uses 3 simple moves to create that reception: mirroring, summarizing, and labeling emotions. Mirroring is tiny. Repeat the last few key words or the key meaning, with a question mark in your voice. Felt invisible? Piled up. Not what you expected. It keeps the other person talking without pushing them into a corner. Summarizing is slightly larger. Let me see if I've got it, followed by a short, clean recap in their terms, not yours. Labeling emotions is the courage to name what seems present. That sounds embarrassing. Or, I hear anger under that. Or, I'm guessing you feel boxed in. You'll be wrong sometimes. That's okay. The correction still moves you closer. Here's a simple script to pocket. Mel. Mirror emotion. Lay it out. Mirror. Late again? Emotion. I'm hearing frustration and a little fear. Lay it out. You expected a quick fix, you got silence. Now you're questioning if you can count on me. Then stop. The stop is part of the method. Silence is where people step into themselves. Let's ground this at work. Your developer, Priya, shipped a feature with a bug and walks into the retro as if preparing for trial. You could lecture about testing protocols. Instead, you're bracing for blame? Mirror. She exhales. Yeah. You continue. So you pushed fast to hit the demo, the test suite lagged, and now you're worried we'll judge your judgment more than the process. Summary plus emotion. Now solutions can breathe. Together you set a guardrail, no late Friday merges, a visible checklist. The truth you needed was that speed under pressure had bent process. You didn't crowbar it out, you invited it. At home, it sounds like this. Your partner says, "It's always me initiating." Old you defends, mirror you tries, "Always initiating?" They nod, eyes wet. "It feels like I'm asking to be wanted." Label it lonely, then lay it out. So when days go by without a touch or a plan, the story in your head is, "I don't choose you." Now you can offer a real change instead of a rebuttal. Let's put intimacy on the calendar in ways that don't kill the spark small daily touches, a weekly plan, and your right to tell me when you feel the drift. The mirror didn't make you guilty, it made you available. With teens, the mirror method is magic that doesn't look like magic. Your kid says, "Everyone's freaking out about college." You're tempted to give speeches, mirror first. "Everyone's freaking out?" "Wait, they'll keep talking." "Yeah, and I don't want to talk about majors every dinner." Label, overwhelmed, maybe crowded? Lay it out. You want support without the microscope. Now you can collaborate. "Okay, Fridays are college free. You bring up school when you want. I'll ask once a week, max." Watch how honesty starts visiting your kitchen again. Pause and ask yourself, where do you tend to explain before you understand? Replay a recent tension. Which one sentence could you have mirrored? Which emotion could you have risked naming? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Perhaps your rush to fix is a shield against the fear that you caused the hurt. Perhaps you avoid mirroring because you worry that naming the feeling will make it bigger. The paradox, when we stop arguing with feelings and name them, they usually get smaller. Resisted emotions grow teeth, received emotions grow roots. There are pitfalls. Parroting isn't mirroring. People can hear the algorithm in your voice. Keep your reflection short and human. Sarcasm kills safety. Avoid the eyebrow that says, "Look how therapeutic I am." Don't smuggle your verdict inside the label. "You're angry because you're being unreasonable" is not a label. It's a sentence with a mask. And pace matters. Too many labels in a row feels like a floodlight. You're not diagnosing, you're noticing aloud. A few phrases that travel well. "Let me see if I'm with you." The part that stung most was, "If I had been in the room, what would I have seen on your face?" What did you hope I would do in that moment? Is there more I should understand before we try to solve it? Notice that last line. It's a guardrail against premature solutions. Solving before seeing breeds resentment. Seeing before solving breeds cooperation. Think about this for a moment. What would change if you spent the next 24 hours trying to understand one person by their own map? Not agree with everything? Not give up your needs? Just prove with words that you can stand on their square without abandoning yours. Try this exercise. Choose a conversation. Commit to mirroring twice before offering any opinion. End with, "Did I get you?" Then add, "Is there anything I missed or got a little wrong?" That last question is humility made audible. People repay it with truth. Use the mirror method even with yourself. Journal in 2 columns. Left column, your raw sentences. Right column, mirror and label them back. "I'm tired of carrying this." Carrying alone, longing for a hand. "I'm scared this won't change." Fear of being stuck, needing movement to breathe. When you reflect yourself kindly, you stop outsourcing all validation. You become a trustworthy narrator of your inner life. In groups, make mirroring a norm. Start meetings with a 1-minute echo. The facilitator recaps what they heard last time and asks for corrections. In conflict, appoint a temporary reflector whose only job is to restate positions until all parties agree they've been captured. It feels slow. It saves hours. The fastest way through a mess is accurate understanding on the front end. If you're listening on YouTube, practice with us. In the comments, write a single sentence that mirrors someone you care about without advising them. Then add one feeling label you're brave enough to try this week. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your examples will give language to someone who has a truth caught in their throat. We left the dish argument with a calendar, yes, but more importantly, with a different rhythm. I said, you wanted appreciation before accountability. He said, and you needed a plan before you could relax. Why not here? We both nodded at the accuracy of being seen, the relief of not having to defend. Once the mirror cleared the fog, the map drew itself. There's one more door to open. We're learning to read bodies and timelines and motives in person. But so much of our life happens through screens, where punctuation plays the role of posture and timing stands in for tone. Next, we'll carry the mirror method into the digital world. Texts that go vague, emails that over-explain, responses that arrive at the speed of anxiety. How do you read signal from static and keep your humanity while you do? Come with me. There's light in the pixels too. Chapter 12. Signals in the Digital World. The first time I mistook dots for devotion, I was staring at a phone. The typing indicator pulsed like a small heartbeat, 3 gray bubbles, promising a message any second now. It was late, and the day had already spent my patience. I watched the dots appear, vanish, return, and vanish again. When the eventual text arrived, "Sorry, busy. Talk later?" It landed like a shrug. I felt dismissed by punctuation. Later, I learned he'd been chasing a toddler around a living room, littered with plastic castles and crushed crackers, composing apologies between rescues. Dots are not devotion. Silence is not always a verdict. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you read a tone into pixels and then treated your interpretation like a fact? We are creatures of context, trying to breathe in a world that compresses context into timestamps, bubbles, and blue checks. In person, you get breath, eyes, pauses, the whole orchestra. Online, you get a flute and try to hear a symphony. The good news, you can train your ear, you can build digital baselines, read patterns instead of panicking, and ask for clarity without sounding like a prosecutor. Here's the first anchor. Timing. Not one reply, but the pattern. Everyone has a cadence. Some people are morning strings of short bursts. Others are evening paragraphs. Some reply instantly to schedule logistics but go slow on emotion. Map the baseline before you assign meaning. If a quick responder goes quiet, that's a signal. If a slow responder takes an hour, that's not betrayal, that's Tuesday. Pause and ask yourself, what is normal for this person in this channel? Email isn't text. Slack isn't voice notes. Without baselines, you'll start reading your anxiety more than their intent. Tone is the second anchor. In speech, tone wears body language. Online, it borrows punctuation and formatting. All caps shouts. Ellipses suggest trailing off or suspense. Periods can feel final in chat even if they're just grammar. Emojis carry cultural dialects. A thumbs up can mean got it or cool story, I'm done. Before you decide what a mark means, ask how this person normally dresses their sentences. Do they sprinkle exclamation points like confetti? Then one thanks. Without glitter might not be coldness. It might be fatigue. Texture is the third anchor, the shape of the message. Do they answer the actual question? Do they add a small personal detail? Just grabbed coffee, will reply after 2? Do they breadcrumb commitments? I'll send the draft by 4. Texture tells you whether a conversation is moving forward or running in place. A low texture, pattern vague assurances, lots of later, deserves a gentle nudge toward specifics. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Digital life magnifies uneven power. Some people live in tools that others dread. Neurodivergent friends might avoid phone calls and thrive in text because it gives processing time. Parents of small kids disappear at bath time. Health issues can steal energy at random. Even algorithms play a role. Filters push some messages to separate folders. Do not disturb silences others. Compassion doesn't erase patterns. It just keeps you from turning a single delay into a character judgment. So what do you do when the thread feels off? Use a small framework I love: TT timing, tone, and task. Name what you're observing in friendly language, then make a simple ask. Hey, quick TT check. Timing, our replies have stretched. Tone hard to read. Task, can we pick a time to sync? Even 10 minutes helps. You're not accusing, you're organizing. Or try SALT, short, ask, link, time. Short, one clear sentence. Ask what you want. Link, why it matters. Time, a concrete window. Can we lock a 15-minute call tomorrow? It'll help finalize the budget, and I'm free 1 to 4. Notice what you didn't do. You didn't interpret. You didn't say, you're ignoring me. You turned fog into plan. A practical etiquette for truth online. Screenshot discipline. Not as evidence to trap, but as memory to clarify. I think I'm mixing messages. Here's what I have from Tuesday. Did I miss an update? You anchor the conversation to artifacts when recollection blurs. Pair that with channel clarity. Use one thread for one topic when you can. Fragmented conversations breed accidental deceit. People honestly forget what lives wear. Let's walk through a few scenes. Your partner texts, "Can we talk later?" at 6:12 p.m. They usually reply quickly, but this time your follow-up sits unread. Anxiety starts painting. T yourself first. Timing, it's dinner hour. Tone, neutral but brief. Task, unknown. Instead of, "Are you mad at me?" try, "Got your note. I'm around 8 to 9 if that works." Or tomorrow, 7:30 to 8 a.m. Which is better? You gave options, honored their request, and protected your peace from theatrical interpretation. Workplace. A teammate replies to detailed questions with "Yep," and no specifics. Resist the urge to read laziness. Ask for texture. "Thanks. To make sure I'm aligned, can you confirm these 3 bullets?" Then list them. If they can't or won't, you've learned something useful about reliability. Adjust the plan, not your blood pressure. Family. A parent leaves a voice note heavy with sighs and says, "Call me." Your body prepares for a crisis. Before you spiral, send a stabilizer. Heard your note. Are we talking something urgent or a general catch-up? I can call in 10 or at 6. You're not dodging, you're triaging. If it's urgent, they'll say so. If not, you just saved yourself a day of bracing. Think about this for a moment. What recurring digital friction steals your peace? The friend who disappears mid-plan? The client who moves to a new platform every week? The group chat that treats your schedule like a suggestion? Pick one pattern. Write a boundary that fits the medium. If we reschedule twice by text, let's switch to a short call. I respond to DMS during work hours. Emergencies get the word urgent up front. If I don't reply by 6, assume I'm offline until morning. Boundaries are not harshness. They are time's guardrails. Now the uncomfortable part, your own digital honesty. Are you vague to avoid disappointing? Do you leave people on read while you hope problems evaporate? Do you use the typing bubble like a stall? Try a new courage. Say, "I don't have the bandwidth to answer fully today. I'll reply by Friday." And then actually do. Or, "I don't have a good answer. Can we brainstorm a different approach?" Online, small truths are compasses. They point everyone back to north. Pause and ask yourself, what would your most honest status message say this week? Working heads down 9 to 12, replies after. Tender today, kindness appreciated. Behind, catching up by Thursday. You don't owe the internet your diary, but the people relying on you deserve a realistic map. And your nervous system deserves the relief of not acting a part you can't sustain. When conflict does break online, return to the bridge-building moves you know. Mirror, even in text. You're feeling sidelined? Label gently. Sounds discouraging. Then ask for one factual pin. What's one specific example I can review? Bringing the body back is powerful too. Offer to switch channels. This matters. Want to walk and talk for 10? Motion softens edges. If scheduling fails, write like a human. I care about you and I want us okay. Here's what I'm understanding. Here's where I'm lost. Here's my ask. Does that land? You're showing your work, not just your verdict. If you're listening on YouTube, share a single message that made a digital situation clearer for you or someone else. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your line might teach someone how to stop letting 3 dots run their life. There's one more truth in the pixels. Sometimes silence is an answer. Not always, not quickly, but eventually. When commitments slide with no adjustment, when later becomes a season, when your specific requests meet perpetual mush, you don't need to invent motives. You need to make choices. The digital world can make avoidance easy. It can also make boundaries simple. Mute, archive, unsubscribe, step away. We'll end with a small grace. The night of the pulsing dots, I sent a short message the next morning. Looks like last night got chaotic. I'm okay. Let's pick a time to talk. He wrote back a photo of a tiny frosting-smeared face and a note. Emergency princess party. Tonight at 8? It wasn't a grand apology, it was a bridge. I crossed it, glad I hadn't burned it to feel powerful for a minute. Next, we step into the room. After truth finally shows itself, the reveal that rearranges your furniture inside. How do you steady yourself when the message lands? How do you respond without losing your dignity or your center? In the following chapter, we'll walk through the aftermath, grief, anger, and the gentle work of turning pain into clarity. Because when the screen goes dark and the truth stands there anyway, the question isn't, what did they say? It's, who will I be now? Chapter 13. After the reveal. The text arrived at 2:11 a.m., the hour when truth has sharp elbows. I woke to the glow and the apology. Short, specific, undeniable. The thing I had suspected was now confirmed in black and white. There are many kinds of silence relief, shock, awe, but this was the kind that sounds like paper tearing inside your chest. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my palm like a small hot stone, and I realized the strangest part. Nothing in the room had changed. The lamp was still a lamp. The curtains kept being curtains. Only my map had shifted. I had been walking through a city I thought I knew. Overnight, a bridge was gone. Think about this for a moment. What happens in the 10 minutes after truth lands? Not the big decisions, those take time, but the very first minutes. We fantasize that we'll act with cinematic clarity, pack a bag, deliver a line, cue the score. In reality, the body floods. The mind scrambles for narrative. Our nervous system, designed for tigers, meets a paragraph and does what it knows. Fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. None of these make us weak. They make us human. The work of this chapter is to steady your body, anchor your mind, and choose actions that protect your dignity while your heart catches up. Start with your physiology. When a reveal arrives, your body may feel too fast or too small. Slow something you control. Put both feet on the floor. Place your palm on your sternum and exhale as if fogging glass. Look around and silently name 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear. It's not a meme, it's science. Orienting pulls your nervous system from the imagined past and future into the room where your agency lives. Pause and ask yourself, what can I do in 60 seconds that keeps me from emailing my future self a mess to clean up? The second move is containment. You don't owe anyone an instant response, especially not a perfect one. Create a small container for the next 24 hours. 1 sentence buys you time and preserves your self-respect. I received your message. I will respond after I've had time to think. Or, I need rest. We'll talk tomorrow between 5 and 6. You are setting pace as a term. People often fear that waiting means weakness. Waiting is a decision to let the storm pass before you chart a course. Now, the psychology that wants to drive. After a reveal, the brain craves certainty and control. It will try to binge on information screenshots, timelines, interrogations, because if you can know enough, maybe you won't have to feel. Information is useful, overdose is not. Set a rule: 3 clarifying questions today, not 30. Ask questions that stabilize, not punish. What happened is a story. When was the first time? Anchors a timeline. Who else is involved? Defines scope. What happens next? Moves you from autopsy to plan. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Sometimes the reveal is not about deceit. It's about disappointment. A job you didn't get. A diagnosis you didn't want. A friend who quietly stepped back. The same sequence applies. Regulate, contain, clarify, and then meaning-making. The mind will audition harsh meanings first. I'm unlovable. I'm foolish. I was never good. Don't let the first meaning take the role. Offer others to the casting call. I was trusting and missed cues. Now I'm wiser. I chose hope and learned where hope needs guardrails. This is painful and survivable. Real life looks like this. You find out your partner crossed a boundary. You breathe, you contain, you ask 3 questions, and then you set a boundary that protects the present while the future is undecided. For the next 30 days, full transparency about whereabouts and contact, plus weekly counseling. After that, we reassess. Or, I'm moving to the guest room and pausing intimacy while we meet with a therapist. You are not sentencing, you are stabilizing. If they refuse stabilization, you've learned faster than if you had believed more speeches. At work, the reveal might be quieter, but just as cutting. Your manager takes credit in a meeting for work you did. Your first impulse is to compose a manifesto in Slack. Try a steadier line. In the meeting, X was presented as completed by leadership. To ensure continuity, here's a short doc with my contributions, the decisions I made, and open questions. You copy the right people. You saved your reputation without lighting a match you can't put out. With family, the reveal may be generational. A parent admits an old secret and the past rearranges itself. Your task isn't to fix history, it's to decide how today's relationship should change. You can honor their courage and still set terms. Thank you for telling me. I need some space this month while I recalibrate. When we talk, I want to stay in the present, no pressure for me to make you feel okay about the past. Boundaries are not punishments. They are guardrails for healing. A word on grief. After truth lands, grief often arrives disguised as rage, fatigue, or numbness. Grief is not a step to get through, but a set of waves to ride. Give it lanes, schedule sadness. 10 minutes with a song, a walk where you let the cry come, a friend who is authorized to hear the unpretty version. If you don't schedule grief, it will try to schedule you. Another word on dignity. Dignity is not stoicism, it is self-respect in action. In practice, that means you resist performative broadcasting. Subtweeting my heartbreak will fix nothing. You document agreements. We said counseling on Tuesdays, I'm confirming by text. And you speak from your values, not your wound. Try. I value honesty and repair. If you want to continue, here's what that looks like. Or, I value peace. I'm stepping back now, and I will not engage in late-night debates. Think about this for a moment. Who are your 3 people? Not the internet. The 3 humans you can text, truth landed. I'm safe. Please check on me tomorrow. Put their names somewhere you can see. Crisis brain forgets what calm brain knows. Also, future-proof your support. Make one therapy appointment while you're still brave, even if you later cancel. That single calendar event tells tomorrow's you that yesterday's you had your back. There will be the temptation to turn the reveal into your identity. Resist. You are not the one who was lied to, the one who failed, the one whose parent hid the truth. You are the one who faced reality and chose respect. You are the one who asked better questions and set better terms. You are the one who walked your attention back from the cliff and put it to work building something sturdier. If you're listening on YouTube, this is where community helps. Share one sentence you plan to use when truth arrives hard. A boundary, a breathing line, a plan. Share your thoughts in the comments like this video and subscribe for more. Your words might become someone else's step stool out of the dark. Before we close, a small scene from later that week. I met the morning with coffee and a pen. I wrote 2 lists. What I know and what I'm choosing. Under know, the facts, no adjectives. Under choosing, I will not argue for my unworthiness. I will not speed. I will ask for help before midnight. The lists were not heroic. They were handrails. Day by day, they turned chaos into a corridor I could walk down. Pause and ask yourself, what belongs on your to list today? What do you truly know without guessing motives? And what are you choosing on purpose that your future self will thank you for? Write 3 lines. Say them out loud. Let your voice remind your body. You are here, and you are capable. We have spent this chapter studying after the storm breath, boundaries, meaning. There's a next step that changes everything. It's not about catching lies, it's about living so honestly that your life becomes simpler, your choices clearer, and your power quieter but undeniable. In the next chapter, we'll talk about telling the truth as a way of keeping your power, how to speak in sentences that move your life forward, and build relationships that don't need performances to survive. Because after the reveal, the most radical thing you can do is tell the truth on purpose and watch the world rearrange itself around your integrity. Chapter 14. Tell the truth, keep your power. The first time I noticed truth put weight back in my legs, I was standing in a glass-walled conference room with a slide deck that refused to behave. Our project had blown past its estimate. I could have dressed the numbers in optimism and hoped the room wouldn't look too closely. Instead, I took a breath and said, "We're over by 18%. I own the bad forecast. Here's the plan to land at 6% over, and what I'll cut to get there." The room went quiet in a way that didn't feel like judgment. It felt like gravity returning. Someone asked 2 questions. Then the VP said, "Thank you. Proceed with the plan. Send the revised schedule by 4 p.m. Walking out, I realized I wasn't drained. I was steady. Telling the truth hadn't weakened my position. It had clarified it. Nothing to juggle, nothing to remember, nothing to hide. Power isn't loud. Often it's just honest. Think about this for a moment. Where did you learn that truth would cost you more than concealment? Many of us were taught that the smart move is to smooth the sharp edges and present the best version. But the brain keeps the tab on all those edits. Psychology calls it cognitive load. Every distortion you maintain requires memory and vigilance. Add impression management. The constant scanning for how you're being perceived, and your attention gets tied up in a job it never applied for. Honesty frees up that attention. It's not moral theater, it's practical leverage. When your words match reality, you stop spending energy on pretending and redirect it towards solving. There's another layer. Self-determination theory. Says humans thrive with autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Lying threatens all 3. You surrender autonomy to the story you have to protect. You undermine competence because you can't improve a problem you won't name. You erode relatedness because connection without truth is performance. The paradox, the thing you fear truth will break, is the very thing deception quietly dissolves. Pause and ask yourself, what truth spoken cleanly today would simplify your life this week? Don't pick the nuclear option. Choose a medium truth big enough to matter, small enough to attempt. I misquoted the delivery date. I don't want to host this year. I'm not available after 7 p.m. Notice the first 3 seconds of relief your body offers when you imagine saying it. Then notice the fear that follows. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Perhaps you're not afraid of the truth itself. You're afraid of the moment even after, when you're no longer managing someone's view of you. That moment is where power returns. Let's make truth practical. Use a 3-beat rhythm I call the say, show, stay. Say when you're the truth in one sentence without decoration. Show what you're doing about it or what you won't do. Stay one present for the reaction without over-explaining. Work example. We missed the dependency and slipped by 2 days. I've reordered tasks to protect Friday's demo. I'll answer questions now. No theatrics, just reality, plan, presence. Relationship example. I felt hurt when you made that joke about my job. I'd like those jokes off limits. I'm here if you want to understand why. You didn't litigate, you didn't attack, you didn't flee. You held the line and stayed. Personal boundaries example. I'm not drinking tonight. I'm focusing on sleep. Then you let silence do its job. If someone pushes, you don't perform a TED Talk. You simply repeat the sentence or change the subject. Power respects its own brevity. Another tool, truth. Windows. Predefined moments when you bring up reality before it becomes an emergency. Weekly money date with your partner. Friday, 15-minute what's wobbling at work. Sunday night, what did I avoid? Journal with yourself. When truth has a calendar slot, it doesn't have to kick down the door at 2 a.m. Think about this for a moment. Which domain do you over-polish work updates, your health, your availability, your desires? Choose one and install a truth window. Search your week for a conversation where a small, early truth could save a bigger, later mess. There are predictable objections your mind will raise. I'll look weak. You'll look weak if you hide and get caught. You'll look human and credible if you name and repair. People trust proportion. The size of your accountability should match the size of the miss. They'll be angry. Maybe. Anger is not a verdict, it's weather. Your job is to be a good roof. I hear you're upset. Here's what I can do now, here's what I can't. You don't have to fix their feelings to keep your footing. Truth will be used against me. With some people, yes, that's not a truth problem. That's a relationship problem. Use calibrated disclosures. Start smaller, verify repair, climb the trust ladder we built. Telling the truth doesn't mean handing your throat to anyone who asks. A few scripts to keep handy. Here's the truth in one line. And here's my plan. I want to be accurate. I don't know yet. I'll know by Thursday. I said yes too fast. I'm correcting it to a no. I appreciate the opportunity and the terms don't work for me. That's not accurate. Here's what actually happened. Notice the posture. Calm, specific, forward-leaning. That's how power sounds when it's being honest. Real-life applications. At work. Replace vague optimism with amite. Range and conditions. We can deliver in 2 to 3 weeks if we get API access by Monday. If not, it's 4 to 5. You just turned a guess into a negotiation and kept your power by tying truth to terms. With friends. Instead of the slow ghost, try the clean exit. I've been distant. That's on me. I don't have the capacity for this friendship right now. I care about you and I'm stepping back. Painful, yes. But you won't spend months dodging a human you once cared about. With yourself. Micro-truths train macro courage. I'm not going to the gym today. Say it out loud, then choose a 10-minute walk. The truth isn't permission to collapse. It's the floor from which you can do the next honest thing. Pause and ask yourself, what's one area where your identity rests on being the reliable one, the nice one, or the unfazed one? What truth would you need to speak to let that identity breathe? Identity that can't accommodate truth will eventually require lies. A caution. Truth without kindness becomes a weapon. Kindness without truth becomes a cage. Aim for a clear plus kind plus brief understanding. Clear honors reality. Kind honors relationship. Brief honors everyone's nervous system. If you're tempted to add 3 paragraphs, you're probably trying to control their reaction. That's not your job. Here's a practice you can run this week called His One Honest Line. Once a day, speak one sentence that aligns your inner and outer worlds by a few degrees. I can't make that deadline without help. I want this to work, and I'm losing trust. I'm proud of how I handled today. Yes, tell good truth too. Confidence built on reality doesn't crack under feedback. If you're listening on YouTube, join the practice. In the comments, write your one honest line for today. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your sentence may give someone else the courage to say theirs. But what about when truth costs something? Real money, status, belonging. Then we return to values. Make a short list 5 words that describe the kind of person you're becoming. When a choice hurts, read the list and ask, which action lets me recognize myself a year from now? Power is not getting your way. Power is keeping your way. Who you are when getting your way would sell it. On a Tuesday afternoon not long after that conference room, I apologized to a junior teammate for snapping at a question. He looked surprised, then relieved. "Thank you," he said. "I didn't know if I should bring it up." A week later, he caught a bug before it shipped. Truth returned in the form of psychological safety and better work. That's the quiet flywheel you start when you tell the truth. Reality fuels trust. Trust fuels performance. Performance fuels peace. Pause and ask yourself, if you lived this way for a year, small, honest lines, clear plans, calibrated disclosures, who would you become? What would you stop managing? What would you finally build? We're about to widen the lens. You've felt how personal honesty stabilizes your life. Next, we'll step into leadership, formal titles or none, and learn how to create cultures where truth is safe, useful, and routine. In the following chapter, we'll turn honesty into structure, meeting norms, consequence transparency, and cadences that make clarity contagious. Because when a leader's words and reality shake hands in public, entire rooms breathe, and truth multiplies. Chapter 15. Leading with Clarity. The first time I ran a meeting that felt like oxygen, I did almost nothing. We'd been stuck for weeks, missed handoffs, duplicate work, a launch date slipping like wet rope. I walked in with a whiteboard and 4 lines already written. 1. What is true? 2. What do we believe but can't prove yet? 3. What decisions are we making today? 4. Who owns what by when? Let's start there, I said, and then I shut up. Maya named the only unmovable fact. The API contract had changed. Tom admitted we were assuming a vendor fix any day now. I repeated the 3rd line, decisions today, like a bell. 30 minutes later, we had 3 owners, 4 dates, and 1 plan with fewer daydreams. When the meeting ended, no one lingered to relitigate. People just worked. It felt less like leadership and more like taking the fog out of the room. Think about this for a moment. When you picture leadership, do you see charisma or calendars? Speeches or systems? Real leadership is less a personality than a pattern you run in public until the room begins to run it without you. Clarity spreads, so does confusion. Your habits teach either way. Here's the psychology beneath it. Humans want 2 things from leaders: safety and direction. Safety isn't coddling, it's predictability. What gets praised, what gets corrected, and how. Direction isn't slogans, it's a shared map. Where we are, where we're going, and the next 3 steps. When people don't have those, they protect themselves. Polish posture, pass the buck. When they do, they contribute name problems early, trade ego for outcomes, take ownership because ownership has a floor. Pause and ask yourself, if a new person joined your team today, how long would it take them to figure out what's real here? How decisions get made? How misses are handled? How truth travels? Is that timeline by design or by luck? Let's make clarity a practice, not a pep talk. Start with the yucky clarity. Loop. I use with every group. State, align, test, adjust. State. Publish the current reality in 1 page. Facts, not spin. We're at 62% of scope. Design is 80%. API contract changed. Launch date is at risk without X. Align. Ask 3 questions in public. What did I miss? What's ambiguous? What's the smallest, clearest next step? Test. Choose the smallest experiment that reduces uncertainty this week. Spike the integration on 2 endpoints. Pilot the message with 10 customers. Adjust. Close the loop at the next stand-up. Here's what we learned. Here's what moves. Here's what stays. Then repeat. You're teaching the team that truth has a cadence. People stop hiding surprises because surprises have fewer corners to hide in. Next, install more decision hygiene. Most miscommunication is just undocumented decision-making. Use a simple decision log. A shared doc works. Decision. Concise sentence. Why now? The constraint or trigger. Options considered? 3 bullets. Owner. 1 name. Review date. When you check if reality agrees. 5 lines prevent 5 weeks of folklore. When someone says, "we agreed," you can point to where "we" lives. Now, the meeting itself. Most meetings are therapy without outcomes or outcomes without honesty. Run the ISHF-AR agenda. Facts, assumptions, risks. 10 minutes for facts, what is true now. 10 for assumptions, what we're treating as true. 10 for risks, what could break and how we'd know. Early. 10 for decisions and owners. If someone presents a deck with fireworks but no dates, ask, what day does this become real? If a conversation drifts into opinions, return to the top line. What is true? And let the room breathe around it. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Clarity culture fails when power is lopsided and unacknowledged. If people pay a price for naming reality, they'll choose silence. Psychological safety isn't a vibe, it's a policy. Model CETUS proportionate accountability. Match consequences to the miss and reward early warnings. Say out loud, telling me a risk early earns you trust. Hiding it earns you a Saturday. Then keep your word. The first time you thank someone for a hard truth in front of the room, the culture tilts toward daylight. Another lever, consequence transparency. Publish your red lines and your learning lines. Red lines are non-negotiables: fraud, discrimination, abuse. Learning lines are places we expect mistakes while we grow. First-time misses on unfamiliar systems. Experiments that fail within bounds. When adults know the rules, they stop playing children's games. Use RAG visibility. Red, amber, green, but ban watermelon reporting. Green on the outside, red inside. Make amber honorable, a normal color that invites help, not shame. I open status with, "Show me your ambers," where help now prevents red later. You'll get better truth in 10 minutes than in a month of dashboards. Calibrate feedback with the Me 5Fs debrief. After any meaningful event, facts, feelings, findings, fixes, follow-up. Facts. What happened in order? Feelings. How did it land on the humans? Findings. What patterns are we seeing? Fixes. What do we change next time? Follow-up. Who owns what by when? The second F prevents the quiet resentments that later eat projects from the inside. Think about this for a moment. What ritual could you add this week that would buy your team back 10 hours of peace? A Monday state of play one-pager? A Wednesday blockers only stand-up capped at 15 minutes? A Friday wins plus wobbles note where you celebrate what mattered and surface what needs eyes? Language matters. Leaders leak culture through sentences. Keep a few pocket lines. I might be wrong, what would you change? Permission to contradict. Bring me bad news early, I pay more for late surprises. Incentive clarity. Short answer first, story after. Brevity discipline. Decide at the lowest altitude that can see the whole field. Ownership. What's our botna if this doesn't land? Options thinking. And a boundary line you'll need. I'm responsible for clarity, not comfort. I'll be kind, not vague. People relax when they know you won't trade truth for harmony. Pause and ask yourself, where are you sending mixed signals? Do you say family first but reward only 8 p.m. replies? Do you preach autonomy and approve everything? Do you promise no blame post-mortems and then hunt for culprits? Your systems reveal your real values. Adjust the system. The slogans will catch up. A story about a turnaround. A nonprofit team I coached was drowning in collaboration that meant no one owned outcomes. We installed one-owner projects. Others contribute, one person holds the pen. A 2-week clarity cadence. State, align, test, adjust, and a rule. If a decision is not written, it isn't decided. In 3 months, they cut meetings by a third, shipped 2 pilots, and saw donor renewal tick up because updates were honest, specific, and on time. The executive director didn't become more charismatic. She became easier to follow. But what about kindness? Clarity is kind. It tells people how to win with you. It frees them from guessing games and protection theater. The kindest leaders set clear expectations and hold them without heat. We agreed on Friday. We missed. Here's the impact. Here's how we protect next week. It's not cold. It's grown up. People want to be treated like adults even when they stumble. Especially when they stumble. If you're listening on YouTube and leading anything a team, a classroom, a kitchen share, one sentence you'll add to your culture this week. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your sentence might become someone else's daily compass. Before we close, a note for leaders of one. If you have no direct reports, you're still leading. You're leading attention. Run these patterns with yourself. Write the one-page state. Keep a personal decision log. Run the 5 F's after hard days. The muscle you build alone becomes the steadiness you offer others later. Pause and ask yourself, if someone shadowed you for a week, what would they learn is sacred deadlines, dignity, truth, or theater? What tiny change would move you one notch toward the leader you'd trust with your best work? We've built rooms where truth can breathe, systems, sentences, and a spine. There's one final place where clarity must live or none of this lasts. The quiet space where you set terms with yourself. In the next chapter, we'll craft a new contract. Simple, audibly honest, kept when it's inconvenient. Because cultures change when people do, and people change when the promises they make to themselves finally stick. Chapter 16. A new contract with yourself. The morning I wrote a contract with myself, the sky was the color of clean paper. I'd fallen asleep on the couch with my laptop open to an inbox that looked like unattended weeds. When I woke, there was a quiet I couldn't ignore, the kind that doesn't accuse, just waits. I brewed coffee, cleared a spot at the table, and pulled out an index card. No big journal, no dramatic soundtrack. Just a card and a pen that didn't skip. I wrote at the top, terms I can keep when it's inconvenient. Not resolutions, not slogans terms. I wanted something that could meet me on a Tuesday after a hard meeting and still hold. Think about this for a moment. How many promises have you made to yourself in the glow of motivation that evaporated at the first sign of friction? We tend to treat self-commitments like a pep rally. The brain, bless it, loves the chemical confetti of a new plan. But psychology is clear. Behavior change sticks when you lower activation energy, increase cues, and pre-decide what happens when you wobble. A contract with yourself is not a wish, it's a design. It assumes your future self will be tired, tempted, and distracted, and sets rails so you don't need heroics every day. I started with 3 lines. Line 1. Daily check-in. 1 minute. Hand on heart. What is true? What matters most today? What will I not trade? Line 2. Small, honest move. One action that aligns the inside with the outside. A no I've been avoiding. An email that owns a miss. A walk I promised my body. Line 3. Compassionate audit. At night. Did I keep faith with myself? If not, what's the smallest repair? No beating myself into excellence. That never worked. Gentle, rigor clear, kind, brief. Pause and ask yourself, if you wrote 3 lines you could keep when you're tired, what would they be? Not your ideal day, your real one. What truth would you check each morning? What single act would move your life 1 inch straighter? How would you end the day without turning reflection into punishment? Here's why this contract matters. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reduce internal noise. Self-trust is compound interest. Keep one small promise and your nervous system relaxes. The next decision gets cleaner. Break promises repeatedly and your brain stops believing your mouth. That's not moral failure, that's calibration. When your words and actions diverge, your attention becomes a full-time spin doctor. When they match, attention returns to building. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Sometimes we avoid self-contracts because we're afraid of discovering our limits. If I admit I can only do 3 meaningful things a day, who am I without the identity of the endlessly capable one? If I admit I'm not available after 7 p.m., will people decide I'm less valuable? The deeper truth: a contract doesn't shrink you, it shapes you. Limits don't limit your life, they locate it. Make your contract visible and small enough to be kept under weather. Mine lives on that index card, taped inside the cupboard where the mugs sit. If it requires a special notebook and a scented candle, you've already made fidelity fragile. Design for rain. Applications come alive in different rooms. At work, your contract might include response windows. I answer Slack at 10 and 3. Emergencies are labeled urgent. Truth windows. Friday 15 minutes to admit what slipped. And focus floors. 2 45-minute blocks with notifications off. At home, maybe it's night phone curfew. At 8 p.m., kind goodbyes wanted before leaving a room, even when annoyed. And Aikidai, Sunday sequence. 15 minutes to lay out the week so surprises don't eat trust. In relationships, your contract could hold bid recognition. When your partner makes a small bid for connection, you respond within 5 seconds, a look, a touch, a word. It's not romance as cinema, it's romance as oxygen. A contract is not only what you'll do, it's how you'll repair. Pre-plan your wobble response. If I break a promise to myself, I will acknowledge it aloud, make a single amends action within 24 hours, and reduce the promise by 1 notch for the next week. Yes, that last clause matters. Most of us double down after a miss and design a prison. Better, shrink the promise until your feet can touch the floor again. Think about this for a moment. Which promise in your life is 1 notch too big? Could you trim it until it's a yes you can keep in a storm? Gym daily becomes walk 10 minutes after lunch. Inbox 0 becomes reply to 3 hard messages by 2 p.m. Be a better listener becomes mirror 1 sentence before I respond. A story. I once coached a founder who swore she'd journal an hour each morning to be more reflective. She lasted 3 days. We replaced it with a 1-line journal. Today, I kept faith with myself when I'm want. After a month, her hour reappeared in a different place. Fewer messes caused by avoidance, less time spinning stories, more time building. Reflection had moved from aspiration to habit because it fit inside her actual life. Your contract can include accountability partners, but choose wisely. Pick one person who celebrates small honesty, not grand gestures, who asks, "What's the next tiny move?" Not, "Where's your 5-year plan?" Share your terms, ask for simple check-ins. Text me green, amber, red on Thursdays. If you're listening on YouTube and want community support, share 1 line of your contract in the comments. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. You might give someone the sentence their week needs. Language tightens the weave. Write your contract as I will, and I won't statements tied to behaviors, not identities. I will pause before I commit. I won't explain after I say no. I will state the next honest step, even when it's small. I won't trade sleep for scrolling. Then add, because my clauses to anchor meaning, because tired me deserves the same respect as motivated me. Meaning fuels maintenance. Pause and ask yourself, what promise will you keep when it's inconvenient? Name one that protects your peace and one that grows your courage. Imagine yourself a week from now having kept both once. What would be different? Not everything, just the next inch. Build. Ritual triggers. So your contract runs when your brain is busy. Mug equals morning check-in. Car seatbelt click equals 2 deep breaths but before driving so you don't carry a fight to work. Door handle at home. Hand on heart, say one true sentence. I want to bring gentleness inside. You are teaching your environment to remind you who you chose to be. A brief caution. Perfectionism will try to hijack your contract and turn it into surveillance. Refuse. The point is not to catch yourself failing, it's to keep yourself company while you practice. If you miss a day, your contract doesn't punish, it invites repair. Welcome back. What's the smallest honest step now? As I finished my index card that first morning, I added a final line. The promise under all promises. I will not abandon myself to keep a story about me alive. That sentence has saved me from shiny projects that didn't fit, from social obligations that looked good on paper and bad in my body, from telling the palatable version of the truth when the clear version needed a voice. The days since have not been cinematic. They've been better. I forget, then remember. I drift, then return. I miss, then repair. My life feels less like an argument and more like a rhythm I can dance to without watching my feet. Before we close, write your starter contract. 3 lines. Place, promise, repair. Put it where your morning begins. Read it out loud. Let your ears hear your loyalty to you. Then live a day as if it's already true. You'll be tempted to keep adding rules. Don't. Keep the card small so the rest of your life can be big. Pause and ask yourself, if you live by this simple contract for a year, who would you become? Not a different person, a more aligned one? What would you stop managing? What would you finally build? Let curiosity tug you forward. In the epilogue, we'll carry this contract into the streetlight and the grocery line and the late-night conversation where courage whispers. We'll talk about the light you take with you, how clarity practiced daily becomes the way you move through the world, quietly changing rooms just by being steady inside them. Come with me. The promise you make to yourself is about to meet the life waiting for it. Epilogue. The light you carry forward. It sneaks up on you in small places. This new way of moving through the world. Not as a trumpet blast, but as a quiet, ordinary choice that used to wobble and now doesn't. A crosswalk flashes the red hand. You stop, even though the street is empty, not because you're a rule follower, but because your insides have learned a pace that's yours, not borrowed. The phone buzzes. Someone asks for a quick favor. You scan your contract with yourself without even glancing at a card. I can't this week, you write. Here's what I can do by Monday. Your body doesn't brace for impact. It breathes. In the grocery line, a small child drops a box of cereal and looks at the aisle like it betrayed her. You catch the parent's tired eyes and offer a half smile that says, "We're all doing our best." None of this makes news. All of it makes a life. One afternoon, you meet a friend for a walk. She talks about a conversation that went sideways and the familiar ache of not knowing what's real. You listen without auditioning for hero. You ask one clean question, what was the first moment it felt off? And you mirror the feeling when it appears. So that landed as dismissive. The trees do their gentle clapping thing above you. She exhales the kind of breath that only comes when someone else holds the mirror steady. You don't fix her story. You help her find the handle. That's the light you carry now. It's not about catching lies. It's about giving truth space to show up in you and around you. Think about this for a moment. If a stranger watched your day as if it were a film, where would they see the new lines? the pause before you say yes, the one-word answer before the explanation, the question that follows a wobbling timeline, the small laugh when urgency knocks and you leave the door closed because you already know your BATNA, the hand on your chest before a hard text, the ordinary grace of a no that still loves the person it's given to. You haven't become a different person. You've become the same person, unblurred. I wish I could promise a life that stays tidy now. I can't. There will be more Tuesdays with sharp elbows. There will be people who prefer fog. There will be moments when your nervous system wants to rush back into old rooms where approval lives and truth pays rent. But you've built something they can't take. A rhythm. Baseline before meaning. Clusters, not single cues. Motives mapped. Timelines anchored. Questions that open. Mirrors that soften. Boundaries that hold. Trust measured by rungs, not leaps. Negotiations slowed by oxygen and terms. Digital signals translated into humanity before verdict. After a reveal, breath before plan. And the daily contract that makes all of this a habit, not a performance. Pause and ask yourself, which piece will you reach for first when the next wobble arrives? Maybe it's the AER handrail acknowledge, echo, return when conversation starts circling. Maybe it's the 3 pins in time, first, middle, last. Maybe it's the sentence that has become your spine. I'm responsible for clarity, not comfort. There is no right entry point. There is only the next honest move. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? There usually is. Sometimes the deeper thing is tenderness, the old fear of losing your place if you stop managing other people's feelings. Sometimes it's ambition, the belief that honesty will slow you down. Sometimes it's fatigue. The deeper thing is rarely moral failure. It's a human need, asking not to be exiled when you choose truth. Make room for the need. Name it. Then keep your promise anyway. That's what grown integrity looks like. Not the absence of competing desires, but the steady leadership of your values. You will overcorrect now and then. You'll read deceit in someone's anxiety. You'll give a no with too much edge. You'll mistake silence for disregard. When you notice, you'll repair without drama. I made a quick call about your intent. I'm sorry. Let me try again. My boundary came out as a wall. Here's the door. Repair is what turns techniques into a character. The more you repair, the less you fear your own humanity. Perfection has left the job. Progress clocks in. If leadership lives in you, and it does, your rooms will start to reflect these choices. Meetings get shorter and kinder. Your kids ask harder questions because your face no longer hides from them. Your friendships stop requiring a committee to make a plan. You make fewer purchases under a timer and more under a sky. You become that rare person to whom truth prefers to speak because it knows you won't rush it, punish it, or use it as theater. You'll treat it like a guest who always gets a glass of water first. Think about this for a moment. What would change if you lived the next month as an experiment in courageous simplicity? One honest line a day. One small boundary kept. One mirror offered. One urge to hurry, declined. One timeline anchored without turning into a cop. One I don't know yet spoken where a performance used to go. Let curiosity run the trial. Curiosity. Let sleep grade the results. If you're listening on YouTube, this is your invitation to join the practice in public. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Tell us the one line you'll try this week, the boundary you kept that surprised you, the moment you chose clarity over comfort and felt your legs get heavier in the good way. Your story may be the lift someone else needs to step onto their first rung. Before we part, return with me to that harmless-looking Tuesday from the beginning, the small favor, the stories that didn't fit. I used to think that day marked the moment I learned how to spot lies. It didn't. It marked the day I learned to stop lying to myself about what I noticed. That's the hinge. Once your inner narrator stops sanding down the edges, the world outside gets easier to read. You ask one more question. You set one more boundary. You make one more plan that respects time instead of pretending to boss it. And the map in your hand starts matching the ground beneath your feet. Pause and ask yourself, who are you when your map matches your ground? How do you speak in rooms that once made you perform? What do you build when you're not siphoning attention to maintain a mask? Write a few lines. Say them out loud. Let your own voice be the first proof you trust. Here's the last promise I'll offer, and it's not a grand one. Practice this way, and you will still have hard days. But they won't own you. You'll meet them with a breath, a boundary, a question, and a calendar. You'll know how to make amends without making a myth. You'll recognize the moment urgency tries to buy your peace at a discount, and you'll keep your wallet closed. You'll become someone your future self recognizes with relief. Walk to the door. Open it. The light you carry is not for display, it's for direction. Use it to find your keys, your people, your pace. Use it to see yourself clearly and to let others be seen. Use it to make rooms breathable. The world is not starving for cleverness. It is starving for steadiness. Go be the person whose words and reality shake hands in public. Go be the person whose boundaries make love easier, not smaller. Go be the person who tells the truth and keeps their power. Quietly, consistently, like a rhythm anyone can dance to. And when you forget, as you will return to the simple contract waiting beside your morning mug. Read it aloud. Begin again. The light is patient. It knows the way.